Welcome to the Space Dreamers Podcast, a Sue Madre production.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Liftoff and the clock has started.
Roger, 0J, and I feel fine. Roger, 0J, and I feel fine.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 16 of the Space Dreamers, guaranteed to jack you up.
That was perfect. Listen, Heather, I've been meaning to tell you something.
What?
I'm not an alien. I'm discontent. Okay? So get it right.
Oh, man.
Teenagers are just like aliens.
Yeah, pretty much.
So that was if you don't know, if you're not a child of the 90s, that was a line from a specific science fiction film called The Faculty, which you may have forgotten.
It's a good one.
It is a good one. Heather and I watched that for this podcast, for this episode. We also watched another movie, and we read the book of the week. What is it called?
A Fall of Moon Dust.
Yes.
Welcome to the 60s.
That's right.
We made it.
Yeah. Everyone's getting naked, reading books about romance, and it's the swinging 60s, dude, on the moon.
Getting it on in the kitchen or something. I don't know. Where were
she
they?
She calls it the palace because of the stupid book.
Oh,
okay, but real
gosh.
quick, this book gave me great ideas for fake ads, which will be coming in the future for sure.
Cool.
Wait, maybe they'll go in this episode. Who knows? Definitely going to do an ad for The Orange and the Apple, which is the book that they read.
Yeah.
And probably for the Saline 5, I'll call it.
The what?
Saline 5.
What is that?
Well, because at the end of the book, it's the Saline 2.
I think it's the Celine.
Saline?
Yeah. I think
Whatever.
It's saline. That's what you put in your contacts.
Oh, really?
Like a saline solution?
So it's Saline?
It's saline.
Okay.
And remember I told you that's what's so fun about reading was like when I read this, I had just read a book about the gods, and Selene is the goddess of the moon. But then I was looking too, like selenography, I may not be saying that right, is the study of the moon.
Right.
So that came from that name,
Yeah.
Selene. And then I think that's probably why he named the vehicle the Selene.
Yeah. I feel like this is another example of one of those things that like I've just always been aware of. Well, obviously I didn't know how to pronounce it, but I've always been aware of like that concept because I've always read Clarke, you know?
Yeah.
Like just words that you automatically associate with the moon, like lunar, Luna.
Right. Oh, right.
Selene,
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
Well, I didn't know what the goddess of the moon was called.
I didn't either.
Yeah, until I read that book. And then I was like, huh.
Nice.
So.
So this is ACC 08. This is Clarke's 8th novel. As we said, A Fall of Moondust. A lot of people consider it like his most accessible novel.
Yeah.
Because of how pretty simple and straightforward it is.
Yeah.
And I find myself wondering, like, when I read this novel as a person born in 1990 and reading in 2020, I find it to be very reminiscent of other stories and movies. But you got to wonder, I don't think Clarke was the first, but you have to assume this is probably a pretty early version of what we know as, like, a rescue story.
Yeah.
Like your standard, like, blockbuster or just, like, thriller, like rescue people in danger.
Right. Like not knowing if they'll live or die.
And you know what else?
What?
I hate to say this, but I think The Martian is better.
The book, The Martian?
Yeah, I do. And the story and just everything about it. It's just
I
more
really like The
entertaining.
Martian. Well, one thing, so I have not read a lot of science fiction, and but as I was reading this, one thing I feel like I have noticed about science fiction books, which for me would be this, The Martian, and then like the Ready Player One and Ready Player Two, there's just like a lot of information in them. So there's definitely moments where I'm just like, what's all this? Like it just gives you a lot of information, and it's not bad, but it's like more than just a story that's just like going and happening. You're also like getting some information too. But I don't know how true. I mean, I think with The Martian, it's all probably pretty close to what really happens.
Right.
I don't know about this one.
It's not very close. Well, I doubt it.
Yeah.
I mean, the very concept. I mean, this is definitely one of the Clarke novels that is the opposite of his ability to foresee reality in the future.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing really on the moon that's like what he describes.
Yeah.
Or as far as we know. But
so you like The Martian better?
yeah, I think what this book lacks is like a strong main character.
Yeah.
It doesn't really have one. I mean, Pat Harris, I guess, is the main character, but not really. You know, I think what The Martian does better is it cuts back and forth better to all the different moving parts.
Yeah.
I didn't really feel any I was intrigued by Lawson, the guy who initially sees the Sea of Thirst and realizes, you know, I like
he's
that
like
guy.
kind of a weirdo.
Yeah.
Or like not very, he's really socially awkward.
Yeah, but he's like a genius.
Yeah.
And I liked most of the characters on the boat itself, but then like the news guy, I didn't really care. But what he was doing was interesting. So I just felt like if these characters were injected or if they had something more interesting to do.
Yeah.
Like maybe if the guy who was filming the whole thing, if he like played a part in the rescue somehow.
Yeah.
That would have been more interesting.
No,
to me.
I hear you, because there were all different people doing different things in The Martian. I remember what I liked about The Martian was how it would be like a thing that would happen. He would like start at the very beginning of like how that possibly happened. Like this little screw was like not put in right. And then you see like the process of like this disaster taking place because of a teeny tiny little thing.
Yeah.
So I don't know what that's called. I don't think that's foreshadowing. I don't know what that's called, but that was a really cool thing.
Yeah.
That they did.
And Clarke definitely does it at least once in this novel when he explains, like, you know, I think one of the chapters in the beginning opens with, you know, I gotta have a reading of this, it's like, you know, the thing that crashed Selene had been brewing for over a million years.
Yeah.
Like I like that kind of
that
exactly
cool.
what you're saying.
For 1 million years, the bubble had been growing like a vast abscess below the root of the mountains. Throughout the entire history of man, gas from the moon's not yet wholly dead interior had been forcing itself along lines of weakness, accumulating in cavities hundreds of meters below the surface. On nearby Earth, the ice ages had marched past, one by one, while the buried caverns grew and merged and at last coalesced. Now the abscess was about to burst. Captain Harris had left the controls on autopilot and was talking to the front row of passengers when the first tremor shook the boat. For a fraction of a second, he wondered if a fan blade had hit some submerged obstacle. Then, quite literally, the bottom fell out of his world. It fell slowly, as all things must upon the moon. Ahead of Selene, in a circle of many acres in extent, the smooth plain puckered like a navel. The sea was alive and moving, stirred by the forces that had woken it from its age-long sleep. The center of the disturbance deepened into a funnel, as if a giant whirlpool was forming in the dust. Every stage of that nightmare transformation was pitilessly illuminated by the earthlight, until the crater was so deep that its far wall was completely lost in shadow, and it seemed as if Selene was racing into a curving crescent of utter blackness, an arc of annihilation. The truth was almost as bad. By the time that Pat had reached the controls, the boat was sliding and skittering far down that impossible slope. Its own momentum and the accelerating flow of the dust beneath it was carrying it headlong into the depths. There was nothing he could do but attempt to keep on an even keel and to hope that their speed would carry them up the far side of the crater before it collapsed upon them.
But I almost got an idea in this book that, like, I think this is true. Like, they were kind of saying, like, that this was happening slightly earlier than it should. Like, yes, they could go take tourists out on this boat, whatever it's called. But didn't they say, like, it was about money? It's always about money. Like, there were only those, like, jet skis. What were those things called?
Dusters. Duster
Yeah.
1, Duster 2.
Yeah. So those were like the only other things that could go out there. Like, didn't they say that they wanted to wait until there was another
Saline or Celine.
Celine? Yeah.
Dude, that's one of the problems with this novel is that there should already be in place a way to save this thing.
Well, yeah,
You know
exactly.
what I mean? It's like everyone's scrambling. It's like you should have expected this.
Yeah. So I guess like that's like the fact that was like this 1 in a million thing or whatever. Like they could have been better prepared for this.
I agree. And obviously being better prepared for something makes for a less interesting story. But while I'm reading it the whole time, it's like survival on the moon. And I'm not just saying this because it's me. Clarke says this in all his books about surviving on other planets. You know, it's like really difficult. And like you have to have all your systems checked. Like there has to be backups. Like he always goes into these details into how you
Right.
need to be prepared for everything.
Right.
And then this novel appears to be about zero preparation for something that seems like it definitely would happen.
Well, and I think that Pat Harris, the captain or whatever, is pretty darn lucky that other guy is is like incognito.
Right.
Commodore
Hanstein.
Yeah. Like
So
he's
let's-
pretty lucky that he has him.
Yeah, but real quick, there's a bunch of things I want to get into, but we should give like a explanation of the plot. So it's. Do you want actually? Okay, actually, also, so this is Heather's first ever novel by Clarke, which is kind of exciting. So why doesn't Heather just tell us what it's about,
Okay.
just generally, and then we'll get into specifics.
All right, just generally.
Yeah.
So it's about the moon. So I think people are living on it now. There's people like living up on the moon. And so they have a vehicle that can take tourists, like it's strictly like a tourist attraction, out over the moon and over the surface of the moon. And there's the Sea of Thirst, which is, it's dust.
Yeah, but it's not normal. It's not
like liquidy dust.
nothing that you could ever see on Earth. There is one
Yeah.
part in the novel that I really liked, how they for like a second, he like mentions the sands of Egypt.
Oh.
And he's like, there's no way that you could compare because this process on the moon has been happening for millions more years.
Yeah.
So
but
it's like the dust is like each individual piece of dust is like infinitely smaller than a grain of sand. So it acts as a liquid.
yeah. So there's like a moonquake. I was
Yeah.
going to say an earthquake, but it's on the moon.
Yeah.
And so I don't know, things shift or something, and Celine, which is the name of the vehicle, the cruiser, whatever, sinks down like 15 meters or something.
Yeah.
So they're stuck down there, and the rest of the book is about like it goes back and forth between the passengers on the ship and the people who are trying to rescue them. And also there's a guy who's like filming it. He's like a journalist. And so he's trying to get, this big story, this big break. So it goes back and forth between like the people on the ship and like kind of what's happening with them. And then, and it's really hard to find them because when they sink, there's no indication of where they are. Like it just, everything looks, and at first they're trying to find them somewhere else. They think it happened somewhere else.
Yeah, at the mouth of like a crater.
Yeah. So then there's a guy who's taking like pictures.
Yeah, so that guy, you're talking about Lawson, right?
Yeah.
So that dude I'm pretty sure he's in some kind of space station that is like right between the Earth and the moon.
Okay. Yeah.
And he, I think, has an eye on both with telescopes.
Yeah. So he figures out through like heat.
Infrared.
Something.
I think
okay,
it's infrared.
So he figures out like where the ship is, like where it sinks. And so then they send out these. Oh, and he goes with them. They go out and like start a rescue mission. And then obviously like once they start the rescue mission, like things go wrong. And like on the ship, things are going wrong. It's like everything. And it's just funny because it's like they're kind of like, oh, we knew that was going to happen. Like, they don't think of it like beforehand, but then like once a bad thing starts happening, they're like, oh, by my scientific calculations, this is exactly what would have happened.
Right.
And they've got, so there's the captain, Pat Harris, and then there's, I don't know what she is, like maybe like
She's
a
like a
flight
stewardess.
attendant kind of
Yeah,
a
yeah.
thing. Yeah. So like a flight attendant, Sue Wilkins.
Yeah.
And as far as I remember, they're the only like crew.
Yeah. Well, because there's only 20 passengers.
Yeah. So, luckily this guy, one of the passengers, like comes forward right after it happens, and you find out that he is, I don't know, he'd been on a bunch of like
Yeah.
space missions or
He's
something.
like a very experienced
Yeah.
and retired,
Yeah.
newly retired space. Captain.
Yeah.
They call him a Commodore.
Commodore.
He's
yeah.
been really crazy places. He's like the
Yeah.
best person you could have in this situation, basically.
So then they have him. So he kind of steps forward and is like, "Oh, I'm going to help you with this." And he kind of like, I get the feeling he's like very charming and very like cool under pressure. So he just sort of like takes on the role of like, I don't know, just like making everybody feel better, kind of.
Yeah, he's a leader,
Yeah,
and that's
then,
what you need in a situation like that.
Like, isn't there some other kind of scientist too? Because
There's like a
he's
few
the one
scientists.
that I think he's the one that figures out like the heat.
Maybe Mackenzie, the
Maybe.
guy from Australia.
Yeah, is it him? Okay.
Yeah, I don't know, but anyway, like I feel like that. The only other people I feel like you'd have to mention would be
Who's the guy who's doing the rescue mission? What's his? Oh, is he Lawrence?
Lawrence.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He seemed pretty cool.
Yeah. I had mentioned to Heather how ridiculous it is. Like, why would Clarke name two characters that share several scenes, both last name Lawrence and Lawson, L-A-W? It's like, why would you do that? But then there's also, like, interesting and funny, hokey, like, 1950s humor that happens inside the thing,
Yeah.
in my opinion. It feels just kind of light.
Yeah.
Some of the characters... Like, I don't know. That's the thing with Clarke, dude. Like, nothing ever crazy happens. Like, okay, while reading this book, Heather, did you ever think that anyone was going to die?
No.
Yeah.
I assumed that they were going to. I mean,
See, dude, that's a problem.
I didn't ever think that any of the passengers were going to die. Like,
Okay.
I feel like I was maybe more worried for the rescue mission, but even them, like, not really. I mean, the thing about this book, too, and I feel like we've said this, or you have said this, everybody has said this about every single Clarke book.
Yeah.
But I could picture this as, like, a movie. And I feel like it's like, I mean, I can't think of movies right now, but maybe like Speed or something. Like, there's all these random people like stuck on a bus that's
Remember
a disaster, and seeing how they interact
Right.
is very, like, to me that's very entertaining. Like, that would
Yeah.
make a good
Wait, remember that movie?
movie.
Remember that movie Devil about the elevator?
I didn't ever
never
see
saw
that.
it. I didn't either.
Yeah.
We should watch that for this or something.
Yeah.
But that's
Sounds scary.
That's like even more claustrophobic. That's like 5 people in an elevator.
Yeah, but and like how you were comparing it to The Martian, where you have like this thing over here happening, these people, and then you have the people on the ship, and then you have the people like trying to get the news story.
Dude,
like,
even-
it would be good.
Even the way, it would be wicked good. Even the way it's discovered is almost exactly the same. Dude, remember, in my memory of it will be the movie, but I remember the movie's very similar to the book.
Yeah.
Remember in the movie, it's a girl in NASA. She has like blonde hair,
Right.
and she's monitoring what a telescope sees of Mars. So they
Yeah.
assume that the main character's dead,
Right.
because he can't communicate. Like, they know nothing. So she notices that things on the moon or on Mars are moving in each successive pass of the satellite.
Yeah.
It takes a picture of where he was. She notices that like things are moving, so that means that someone is there moving them.
Right.
And it's the same thing. That's the same way Lawson, because it's no one, like, you as the reader know that the Selene is under the dust,
Right.
but nobody else does.
And they can't communicate, right?
Right. Yes,
So
yes.
and that's the other problem, is they're like, they might all be dead already. We don't know.
Exactly. It's the same thing. They assume Matt Damon's dead.
Yeah.
They assume these people are lost. So someone from really far away, in this case, he's between the Earth and the Moon, and the Martian, the girl, is on
Earth.
She's on Earth, but the thing that's watching Mars is not on Earth. Either way, it's like the same thing. They're really far away, and they see it through a screen. They notice through a screen and through technology that, oh, this is where this person is, or what? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The same exact way I feel.
You're just making me want to watch The Martian.
Yeah.
I loved that book, and then I love the movie, and I think they are really similar. So since I probably won't sit down and read that book again,
yeah, exactly.
Now I want to watch the movie. But it's also like, one thing that I did find myself thinking, like, even though I didn't actually think that they were going to die, I was like, what a way to go! Like, that would just suck. Like, being stuck in a thing that's down, in dust, like, that just sounds awful. It sounds awful. Just trapped until you die. And then there's problems. So, like, it's getting really hot in there, which I thought was funny because everybody, like, they were like, well, we're all going to have to take our clothes off. Like, I was like, what? Like, I just don't feel like it must have been real hot for them to do that.
Yeah, of course.
So they all. Why is it getting hot though? I don't remember why.
I think because there's no way for their heat to escape.
Okay.
Because I think the heat from the thing is expelled into the vacuum of space normally.
Right.
But in this case, they're completely surrounded by the dust. So there's no way to expel heat.
Okay. And then also, isn't there an issue with the oxygen?
I mean, every issue you could possibly imagine does go wrong. I mean, that's the point. Yeah. But well.
Oh, because eventually that's why they have to put everybody they have to make everybody sleep.
Let's talk about like the highlights. So like one of the highlights I thought was how they ended up being able to talk to the outside world. Remember?
I don't remember.
Okay, so
you have to. I read this book like 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, I was distracted with other work I had to do, so I had to push this back. So unfortunately,
and I didn't take great notes. And I think the reason I didn't take great notes is because I read this as I would read any book, and I was just like into it and reading it, and I wouldn't remember to like take any notes on it. Well, but so I don't remember. You'll have to remind me.
Okay,
tell everybody.
So Lawson ends up going to the moon, and they're on the dusters. So dusters are like jet skis. They're open.
Yes.
Like there's like a canopy for the sunlight, but it's like a jet ski on the sea of dust, and 2-man jet ski. So they go out, and he has this infrared tracker thing. All this is described in the novel, where they're looking for infrared. Another issue is that the saline goes down in the nighttime.
Oh yeah.
And the moon gets really, really cold at night and really, really hot during the day because it has no atmosphere to protect it.
Gosh, sounds like a disaster.
And a lunar day is 14 days. Or like, I think it's from midnight to midnight, it's 14 days.
Yeah.
So he can only, there's a race against time with that because he can only see the infrared at night. And so like he's racing against the clock because the sun is coming up. So like the heat from selene is like dissipating.
Yeah.
So they're in a hurry. He thinks they find nothing, but then something happens where they have like a pole, like a thing to poke down and see where the bottom is.
Yeah.
And so at one point, one guy falls off of a jet ski, and that's like a pretty cool scene where a dude falls off a jet ski and you think that he's going to die or whatever, but then you realize...
It was the main guy. It was Lawrence.
Was it Lawrence?
I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
He falls off, but their suits... Okay, we're going to get to an issue, in my opinion.
Uh-oh.
Their suits are buoyant, so they float. So he knows that like there's no danger, but like someone has to pull him out.
Yeah.
So that's like, why doesn't Selene have fucking buoyancy tanks? Like, wouldn't that... Like, this is the thing, dude. This freaking novel, dude, like... They build that raft, right? They stick it out on the sea, dude. They have a crane. Like, why isn't all this shit sinking?
Yeah, I don't know.
Like, how is it even floating? That's what I don't get. I don't understand the dust, dude.
But I think that's part of the problem is, and not to interrupt, but there's literally a part in this book that I noted where it says, if you don't, where is it?
Our great problem, of course, is the dust. If you've never seen it, you can't imagine what it's like. Any ideas you may have about sand or other materials on Earth won't apply here. This stuff is more like a liquid. Here's a sample of it. Lawrence picked up a tall vertical cylinder, the lower third of which was filled with an amorphous gray substance. He tilted it, and the stuff began to flow. It moved more quickly than syrup, more slowly than water, and it took a few seconds for its surface to become horizontal again. No one could ever have guessed, by looking at it, that it was not a fluid. This cylinder is sealed, explained Lawrence, with a vacuum inside, so the dust is showing its normal behavior. In air, it's quite different. It's much stickier and behaves rather like a very fine sand or talcum powder. I better warn you, it's impossible to make a synthetic sample that has properties of the real thing. It takes a few billion years of desiccation to produce the genuine article. If you want to do some more experimenting, we'll ship you as much dust as you like. Heaven knows, we can spare it.
So that itself is a little bit of a problem, I think, with this, is that it is actually too hard for anybody reading this to imagine what it's like.
Oh yeah, that's a
This
really good
literally
point.
tells you that, like, anything you're thinking of, you're wrong.
Yeah.
So
like that.
I do think that is a hard part about this book. You can't imagine, and I don't know what Clarke's imagining, but
Well, I can imagine it.
I
but-
don't feel
but
like I can.
But I don't understand. Like, it makes sense to me that you'd be able to move on that thing. It doesn't make sense to me that you'd be able to be stationary and float. Like, I just don't get how that would work.
I wonder if it's like, no, I don't know either. I really don't know. Is there something?
Well, because let me just give an example. So you can, this is just what I think of. If it's snowing, right, and you have a snowmobile.
Yeah.
The snowmobile is made, the way it's made is to go on snow.
Right.
But if you go really, really fast and you meet like a river,
Yeah.
and you're going fast enough, you'll go across it and you won't sink because of your momentum.
Okay.
So that's what I picture as how this dust would work with this saline thing.
Yeah.
But then as the novel goes on, you see, and they explain that they have tanks to make them float.
Right.
Like things full of air. But the whole time I was just like, they have all this stuff on this Sea of Thirst. And like, none of it's sinking. Like, there's no problem.
Right.
The problem occurred with the thing that was designed to be on the dust.
Yeah.
I don't know, dude.
They've got, I don't know. That is true.
It was just a little hard to understand. But at the same time, I think what drives you is just like all the interactions between like the scientists and then the people who are in Saline.
Right.
You know, just like the survival aspect of it. So what else? Then what happens? Wait, I just went on a rant.
We were
Well,
talking about the rescue. So we were talking about how he finds them. So
Oh, yes,
they go
yes,
out
yes.
on the,
Yes. So
and the one guy sinks, and then they,
Yes, because then that's a really cool moment. Because then at the very end of that chapter, it's like, and then like his pole had hit something at the bottom, and it's like, oh, okay, let's investigate this. So then, like that scene was really cool, where he was like poking down and like figuring out where it was, and they realized that the dust is preventing the radio signal from getting out. That's why they can't talk. So the prod thing that he uses to poke down is made of metal. So when that touches the hull of Saline and is sticking out of the dust, that acts as a perfect antenna.
Oh, right.
And that's how they're
Okay.
able to talk, which I loved. And then I just thought that was a cool idea. So then I like the part later how something happens where that gets knocked over, and then
Yeah.
they lose communication again. And it's like, oh,
They do.
Jesus.
Oh, God. I just kicked the table.
That's okay.
Sorry.
I don't care. Yeah, so then I feel like this novel's pretty straightforward. Like, there's not a whole lot to really dissect about it.
No, it is pretty straightforward. I felt like as I was reading it and like having listened to you guys talk about the other novels on the podcast, I was like, whoa, all right. I got an easy one.
Yeah. It's very...
So I did think it was funny, like the passengers and how their biggest issue is like keeping morale up and like not being like super bored. But I also feel like that is where this novel shows its age a little bit, because he's like, at one point the Commodore's like, okay, well, Sue has too much to do, so there's some ladies that could help her make food, like only women would have made food. And then like,
dude, I don't think Clarke has a single female main character now that I think about it. That's fucked up. I can't think of a single one.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, I wouldn't know, but
There's
I mean,
one.
I think I think that, like I said, it just shows the age. I mean, that's a bummer that he didn't think to do that.
The last novel comes out in 97. But no, I do get it. I do get it.
Okay. So yeah, he should have been a little more.
Maybe I'm thinking, actually, The Songs of Distant Earth, I think. Remember we read that short story?
Yeah.
It was about a girl.
Oh yeah.
That's a novel. I think a girl is the main character.
She's the main character, but also
I don't think the novel's like that.
There are some issues,
Yeah.
because I remember at one point he was like, we can't be together, and she freaks out, and he's like, and then he remembered what women are like.
Oh,
just
Jesus.
real emotional. But like, so I thought that was funny, and then he's like, did anybody bring any books? And I just love that, because they have two books. Isn't that it?
Especially like these days, man. Everyone have a phone. Dude, can you imagine? Dude,
Yeah,
we
but
would
this
be
is
fine.
why you should bring a book.
No, this is crazy. Modern day people in that situation would be perfectly fine, because that's what we do anyways.
Yeah, but you
We
don't know
sit
if their
and we
phones are
stare
going to
at-
work. Yeah,
Well, I'm just saying.
Well, so I guess that's kind of what's cool about this, is like they had to sort of be together. They had to
Right.
entertain themselves like together. So there's a journalist on the
Yeah.
and she has paper.
Right.
So they make a deck of cards.
Yeah.
Like, how
And then there's
great is that?
Yeah, and then there's those three dudes who are like, they're like, we want to do put on a play, and there's those three
he
guys
sets
in
up
the
like
back.
an entertainment committee.
Yeah, but then the three guys in the back are like, we'd rather keep playing poker. It's so funny, dude. Like,
Yeah.
it's just like that. Those people, like, those guys probably in that moment, they're probably enjoying themselves more than they have in the last
Right.
few weeks or months of their lives.
Right. And then you have like somebody was like a real, like, had
Miss
a stick
Morley?
up her butt. Is that who it was?
I'm pretty sure that's who.
And
Miss
she
Marley.
was like, and you get like little bits of like that Captain Harris likes Sue.
Yes, the stewardess.
Yeah. So you get like little clues of that. And then it's almost like, is it Miss Morley? Like, she's like, what are you two doing?
Yeah.
But they're like, well, I mean, if she thinks we're getting frisky back here, we might as well. So like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. But I like when I think Hastings or whatever his name is. I like when he shuts her down.
Oh,
I
what does he say?
vaguely, I don't know. He's
remember.
just like, look, if they want to go back there and do that, it has nothing to do with our survival. So what are you complaining about?
Yeah.
I remember he just like shut her down.
And I guess they were probably thinking, oh, we might die.
Yeah.
So.
And I love, I don't know. I'm just so curious, like, about that. The book they read, The Orange and the Apple. Like, why is it called? Maybe what, like Romeo
Wait,
and
is that
Juliet?
book
Like
real?
they're opposites? No, I doubt it. I think what he's calling, he calls it like a classic of the 70s, but the book that you're reading came out in the 60s, so it's like, it's a classic to people in the future.
Yeah,
You know what I
but
mean?
it's weird because I just like literally opened up to the page where they're talking about it, and Miss Morley says,
What did she call it? Trash or something?
yeah. She says it's utter trash, and most of it is near pornography. And then someone says, how do you know?
Wait, Miss Morley was the burlesque dancer, right? Or was that a different one?
Was she?
No,
That was
a
somebody's
different one.
wife.
Schuster.
Yeah.
Schuster.
That was like, and I feel like she is, she was a dancer, but now she's like gained weight, and
Yeah.
like, that was kind of funny. But, and then there's that whole thing at the end
Dude. With
with
the UFO
the
thing?
guy. Yeah.
Okay, let's talk
Radley.
about that. Yes, let's talk about that. And
And is he like on the run or
so,
something?
No, this is a perfect example. Clarke does this all the time. where he has an opinion and he wants to share it, and he needs to do it via his characters. So in terms of the story, I hate Radley. I don't think it belongs. I don't think it's very interesting.
Yeah.
And it's too long. It comes at the end. But I love the sentiment that Clarke is basically saying people who believe in UFOs are fucking crazy. Like, they're not real. Like, just, you're all crazy. And I love that because I agree. Like, I firmly believe that life exists elsewhere in the universe, but I do not think that like people who think UFOs are real are correct, or that they're aliens. You know, like I don't believe it.
Yeah.
It's akin to religion. It's like you don't know, you just believe.
Right.
So anyway, I love the sentiment. Like I agree with Clarke, everything he's saying in that part.
Yeah.
But in terms of the story, it's boring.
Yeah,
it doesn't belong.
And I feel like it just suddenly comes up at the end. But I wrote here that there's a detective who's looking for him. Was the detective on the ship also?
Yes, because
Yeah.
that dude's being trailed because he illegally got the ability to go to the moon. Like they explain it. You need some kind of like universal like license or something to travel to
Okay.
other worlds, and he
Okay.
forged it in order to go to the moon because he's like this crazy conspiracy theorist about
Right.
UFOs.
Okay.
So that dude's tracking him just because he's doing illegal things, not because he's like actually involved with like aliens.
Okay.
I
I wonder how it would be
And-
different, like that belief would be different if we were actually like living on the moon.
Well, I think that's the idea in the novel, which does not reflect reality, is that they even say, like, Hanstein has, like, he's like, yes, I've seen things that can't be explained while traveling the solar system, but that doesn't mean they're aliens. It doesn't mean
Yeah.
they're flying saucers. And I think it's funny, in the book, they don't even know what the word flying saucer means.
Oh, really?
It's just funny, dude. It's like, yeah, because what Clarke is trying to do is show you like this perfect version of the future where people don't believe in hocus pocus like religion, UFOs, all the stuff that he poo-poos. That's his perfect version of utopia. He always does it in his novels. So that's the idea. But sometimes he like lays it on too thick. It's like, dude, these people like 100 years in the future don't even know the word flying saucer. Like it's not. There would be so many people who believed still.
Yeah.
Like, if you don't believe in UFOs and flying saucers, you still know the word.
Flying saucer. That's like such a... Who
'Cause it
came
looks-
up with the idea that that's what an alien ship would look like?
Probably the first people to think they saw one. And
They were like,
said-
it looked like a plate.
Yeah, it looked like a disc. Yeah.
Like, what?
I don't know.
That's just...
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, but I mean, I love the word I love UFO. It is what it is, an unidentified flying object.
Exactly.
I mean-
Keyword unidentified.
Right.
Meaning not that it's definitely aliens.
Yeah.
Like little green men. But if you listen to this and you don't know me and you believe in UFOs, that's okay. I don't care.
Remember what I said about if I was ever attacked by an alien, that like the first thing that would go through my mind was like, if I survive this, no one is going to believe me.
Right.
That's what I would think.
It's kind of like in The Faculty.
Yeah, nobody
Remember?
believes them.
Dude, I love that moment in that movie where the Elijah Wood and Jordana Brewster are in the closet.
Yeah.
And they witness them basically attack Salma Hayek. And it's like, they saw it. Like, Salma Hayek saw it. She got attacked. Like, here's your proof. And then
Yeah.
they run out. And then all three of them walk out because they're all the alien now.
Yeah.
So it's like, nope, no one's going to believe you.
Yeah.
Like, even though you saw it.
Right.
I thought
That's
it was
how I would feel.
very cool.
I'd be like, damn, if I live through this, people are going to be like, what happened? And I'll be like, an alien.
Yeah, and they'll
And
be
then,
like, yeah, okay.
yeah.
Wait, I
It's
want
going to be awful.
I want to read this part at the end that is amazing. I love it. Shoot, I just had it. Doggone it.
Well, while you're looking for it, I will say, like, for anybody who hasn't read any Clarke books, but you want to, like, this novel would not be a bad one to start with. Like, I definitely, or just to read, maybe if you're not planning on reading more, because it does just read like a rescue. You know, it's just like a good story. I mean, like you said, yeah, I didn't ever think anybody was going to die who was on the ship. So I guess you're not like on the edge of your seat, but I don't know. It was kind of cool to see like how they overcame everything. So
Yeah, and I will say, even though I've read this book before, this is the second time that I've read it. Even though that is true, I still found myself at the end of this novel wondering, like, I'm not going to give anything away, but like, you know, at one point I was like, is someone going to sacrifice themselves? Like,
yeah,
how's this going to play out? Even though I'd read it, and I don't know if I've said this yet. I don't love this novel. I really don't. I think it's kind of boring, but
yeah, it's a little bit. Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit boring.
But just, I mean, it's not a bad novel. It's just, again, I've said this before. It's just not what I look for when I go to Clarke.
Well, and I think that's why like this might be a good if you don't read Clarke already, and maybe if you're like me, like you've read some science fiction books, but you don't read a ton of it. Like this one's not bad. And if anybody out there is looking to make a movie, I think this would be great. I think you could like update it to this time.
No, what you should do, and I was just thinking this, well, both for the movie and for the story, or if you just want to picture it this way, to just have it take place on a planet that we don't know anything about that could have this dust.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like if you just suspend the fact, because this is the thing, man, like this is, people at the time didn't know what the moon was going to,
right.
People thought you would land your ship and it would just disappear into dust.
That's very weird.
Into sand. I mean, if you don't know, you don't know. You know what I mean?
But why would you think that?
Well, because you can only look at it. I don't know.
That's like pretty extreme.
Yeah, I don't know why they thought that, but Clarke clearly did.
I don't know. I mean, it's definitely a cool idea. I mean,
yeah. Let's talk about these covers, though. Which one do you like the best? From yours to this one to...
First of all...
Wait, where's
this
my
one's...
other...
I don't know.
Here.
This one is... No, I have the same one as you.
Yeah, but it's
except
green. So
mine is
tell me
green.
which one you like best. Take all three.
Oh, my gosh. Oh... I kind of... So I don't feel like there's the spaceship that's behind this gentleman really looks anything like what I would imagine Celine looking like.
And it's also not buried.
It's like half buried.
Is it?
I think so.
Okay.
And then I don't know who this guy is.
Yeah,
but
that
he doesn't
cover,
look like anybody in the book.
The cover of the SF Masterworks edition is garbage, and I'll say that straight up.
This one is super cool. What is that back there? Is that Earth?
Yeah.
Okay. So this one I like because the Celine, this totally looks like a tourist. It looks like a big, huge cruise ship.
Yeah.
So I like that one.
Check out my Instagram at the Space Dreamers to see the book that we are talking about.
There's one that when you look it up on Wikipedia, it's like really cute.
Have you
seen it?
Yeah, but let me see.
It's like
now.
a little baby. It's like a really simplistic drawing of
but I
this
love it. It's
little
weird
red.
that it has like a fin. It looks like a plane. You see the thing in the back? Looks
yeah,
weird.
and it's cruising.
Yeah.
But I don't know about those like things in the background. Like this
those are the
looks more
mountains.
like what? Yeah, but those don't look like mountains.
Well, yeah.
This looks more like. Except, what is this thing in the front?
I think that's just.
When I first look at it, I
in the
think it's
foreground.
like an animal. I'm
Wait,
like,
let me see.
oh.
Can you see? I wish you could see like the rocket up top, looking down.
I don't like that thing in the front, but otherwise, I really like that one. I also think I like the name of this book, A Fall of Moondust, but it almost, to me, it almost sounds like a fantasy. Like Moondust just sounds like very...
Sounds like some Neil Gaiman shit.
Yeah, well, yeah. A Fall of Moondust, Stardust.
Stardust. Oh, yeah, duh.
But anytime you talk about like dust and like some celestial...
Fairy dust.
Yeah, like dust has like a magical meaning to it.
Yeah.
Or not a magical meaning, a magical feeling to it.
Yeah.
So, A Fall of Moondust? What is
It's
falling?
not even falling.
That's what I mean. It's a cool name,
it's
though. I
called
do like it.
A geyser of moon dust. I remember that part with the geyser.
I don't know what happened with the guy.
Wait, okay. I do want to talk, even though I said I don't really like this novel. I love the part where, remember how they get them air? One of the big issues in the novel is that they have to get them air.
Yeah.
Like the first, I remember, okay, so they're racing against time initially because they're running out of air.
Right.
Because they have enough food and water to last them, they say, like a week or whatever.
Yep.
But the air, it's like, whatever, like 48 hours.
Well, they're also nervous that they're going to cook.
Right. But, so the first issue is that the people up top, once they discover them, have to get them air.
Right.
Once they give them air, once you get air, even though you're still stuck and you could still die, you're given
More
an
time.
additional like 5 days to potentially get out. So they drill. Oh, dude, that scene was so good, and it was so fucking reminiscent of another really good scene that Amy and I loved in the Deep Range. Remember when they're running out of oxygen? So this is another cool part where they put everybody to sleep with those things, because when you sleep, you use less oxygen. So that
That's
whole
right.
scene is really cool. And then, so they have to drill a hole in the roof,
Yep.
but keep the drill bit sealed so that the air in the saline doesn't escape. But so then they have to tell him when to unscrew it once their end is hooked up.
Yeah.
So, but he's so stupid from lack of oxygen
Right.
that scene is just so intense. He's trying to unscrew it while the people up top are like, "What the fuck are you doing? Dude,
Right,
stop
right.
doing that."
Yeah.
Because if he unscrews that thing, then everyone dies. But he's so stupid because he has no oxygen in his brain.
Right.
And he's literally falling asleep while he's doing it. Like, that's one of the things that saves them, is that he's so weak he can't unscrew it.
Yes.
That whole scene
right.
is so good. And then something he does, I think, is what causes the reversal. I think he does that. I can't really remember. But something causes a vacuum. Something causes the air in Celine to exit.
Yeah.
And so it
Yeah,
causes
yeah,
like
yeah.
a geyser on the moon.
Doesn't
Or in the
dust get
sea.
in at some point too? Or is that what they're trying to be careful of? Because then like Lawrence, is that who it is?
Yeah.
Has to go down like a tube.
Well, yeah, so that's how they get them out. They have to create a vacuum,
Yeah, like that part was pretty cool. And then it's like on fire.
or the opposite of a vacuum. But yeah. Well, yeah, at the end, like every stupid story like this, it's down to the very last second, and it's so ridiculous.
It just gets, like if they didn't get them out when they did. Because someone's
Yeah.
like, excuse me, but this wall is on fire.
Yeah, and then I just remember there's one description of Sue Wilkins right before she goes up. The dust is up to her waist. So it's like, you guys literally did it at the last second.
Yeah.
After being like, we have enough food for 5 to 7 days. We'll be fine.
Well, because like I said, it's like all of these things that they don't think of. But then as soon as they start happening, they're like, oh my gosh, that's right.
Yeah.
We didn't even think of that.
The
But
whole-
scientifically, it makes so much
Yeah,
sense.
yeah.
So like you'd think that they would be like, okay, if this baby goes down, these are all the problems that we're going to have. We got to have some solutions.
Dude, you would think that
they
it's
should just
ridiculous.
have suits.
Yeah.
Or that's like a boat has life rafts.
Yeah.
So that's part of the problem, is that but I think that they were rushing. They were like, we need to get this going because we got to make some money.
Yeah. It's I don't know. I forgot that I'm ranking these. I don't know where I would rank this one. I've never really loved it.
Yeah. It also, I know it's not realistic, but it feels like you're reading just a regular story. Like there's not that, I mean, yes, obviously the whole idea of it is not true.
Right.
But you don't, while you're reading it, you are like totally buying it. Like you're just like, because I think it does just remind you of like, you know, an airplane being in some kind of crisis mode, a boat being in some kind of crisis mode. Like it could be so many other things.
Yeah, like that movie, The Towering Inferno. It's like a bunch of people stuck in a building that's on fire.
Yeah.
The
So
whole
it's
movie.
like, I mean, and I think that is a very, like I said, I can't think of any right now, but like just that whole idea of people being stuck with like very different personalities and like having, you know, like each person maybe has a role to play, but also they're like really pissing each other off the whole time. It's you do, I mean, and like you said, this was probably written before most of those, but it makes you think of other things. So it doesn't seem like when I hear you guys talk about the other books, they sound like they're a lot more
Heady.
like, yeah. And it's a lot more unbelievable.
Yeah. It's like aliens. And
Right.
stuff
And like people that live for a million years. Like
Right.
these are actual humans on like that just, you know, I mean, yes, the whole idea of like
that like live
people
and
living
work.
on the moon,
Yeah,
but it's just like there's nothing too crazy about this.
Yeah. Hard sci-fi, baby.
Yeah.
That's where it's
I
at.
mean, for real.
Yeah. So there's the other issue. You know, this also, you know, okay, maybe this is why I don't like it, because I recognize that it's the first, or not the first. I recognize that it came before these things, but as I said, The Martian I think does it better. And remember, Heather, you are a fan of a little book called Airframe, right?
I love that book.
Okay. Remember, there's the whole journalism angle in that book.
Yeah, that's
where
just,
there's someone just, but like that.
it's just a better book.
No, I know, but like that whole journalism thing is a million times more interesting than the dude in the rocket with the camera in this book.
That to me was not interesting at all. I like did not care about that guy.
Yeah, that's my point. Is like I wish that he had done something like,
or just not been in the story.
well, because there was the cool part where he was like, "There's not a single news agency in the solar system that can get to this spot in less than 48 hours. I'm going to be there in 6." Like I like that whole like opportunistic, like we're going to film this
it's
thing.
so journalist. It's so journalism.
Yeah.
I mean that, but like. Because, I mean, wasn't he also thinking, like, if everybody dies, this is also going to be, like, a crazy good story? And I feel like, especially in pop culture, like, journalists not caring if people die just so they can get the best story is, like, very much a theme.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that that's true about journalists at all, but it's, like, a theme.
Okay. Wait, I want to read this one part. But my favorite Clarke-esque, like amazing, beautifully written passage, pretty much like, there's not that many in this novel, but there's one that I love. So the guy, he's in a rocket that lands on a mountain that can look down, has like a perfect view of the Sea of Thirst and everything that's going on. So he's filming it, and, you know, millions or whatever, billions of people on Earth and Venus and Mars are all watching it. Everyone's glued to this rescue. So he's there, and he's filming. He has a camera, and it's cool they get into that stuff, like, you know, how far he has to zoom in, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
So then there's this description that what he's filming, he also has, like, a device that people in the solar system have to, I guess, receive news, maybe like an iPhone. I'm not really sure. But he explains this.
On the tiny screen was the picture he was seeing directly on his monitor. No, not quite the same picture. This was the one he had captured 2.5 seconds ago. He was looking that far into the past, in those 2.5 million microseconds. To change to the time scale of the electronic engineer, this scene had undergone many adventures and transformations. From his camera, it had been piped to Auriga's transmitter and beamed straight up to Lagrange, 50,000 kilometers overhead. There, it had been snatched out of space, boosted a few hundred times, and sped earthwards to be caught by one or other of the satellite relays. Then down through the ionosphere, that last 100 kilometers, the hardest of all, to the interplanet building where its adventures really began, as it joined the ceaseless flood of sounds and sights and electrical impulses which informed and amused a substantial fraction of the human race. And here it was again, after passing through the hands of program directors and special effects departments and engineer assistants, right back where it started, broadcast over the whole of Earthside from the high-power transmitter in Lagrange 2 and over the whole of Farside from Lagrange 1, to span the single hand's breadth from Jules' TV camera to his pocket diary receiver. That image had traveled 750,000 kilometers.
And Clarke, I just think that line is amazing, or that paragraph is amazing. Although at the same time, it's not necessarily realistic, because I don't know if now that's how that would work. because
yeah.
I'm not really sure, but I just think it's amazing that he can break that down and explain that. It's just so cool.
Yeah.
Like, dude, okay, this is not sci-fi, but have you ever seen the film Lord of War with
I don't think so.
Nicolas Cage and maybe Jared Leto?
No, I don't think I have.
It's about a arms dealer, like
Okay.
a black market gun seller guy.
Yeah.
And the opening scene starts with the opening credits of the film follows a bullet from when it's made,
Oh.
from the moment it's made, like the beginning, to when it shoots a fucking kid.
Oh, God.
It's horrible.
Oh, no.
And it's, it's just saying, like, this is what arms dealing is. This is what war is. You make a
Right.
weapon, you make money off of it. It enters the heart of a child, and the child dies.
Yeah.
And this is the activities we Earthlings engage in.
Yeah.
So, that was cool. I just like that whole, tracing the origin. And then,
You can imagine that everybody would be glued to their TV to find out, are they going to make it? Are
Yeah.
these people going to get out of that ship?
yeah.
It would be a pretty big deal. It would be
Definitely.
big news.
Oh, yeah. But, yeah, I feel like at the same time, I don't know. I feel like that kind of shit must happen all the time. Well, I think he makes that point that this stuff does happen all the time, but there's not cameras around. I'm pretty sure he makes that point.
Yeah.
That space accidents happen, and we all know about them, but, oh, my God, now we can watch it like it's on TV, live.
Yeah, which is kind of awful.
But it's also, I don't know, it's like real life now.
Yeah, no, exactly.
And Clarke is very interesting. I probably brought this up on the podcast. He has very interesting ideas about television and how it would be used, because he was alive when it was invented.
Yeah.
Saying that it should be used for educational purposes,
But
not for advertisements, which that's what it is used
Right.
for now.
But like these days, I wonder what he would think of like all of our social media and stuff, and like how that can interfere or be different.
Yeah, I don't know what. I don't know. I mean, he died in 2008. I mean, he might have had an iPhone.
Yeah.
It's pretty crazy that
It is.
that he helped invent like a form of radar, and he lived to potentially own an iPhone.
But that's what, I mean, I've talked to people about that before. Like in my lifetime, like I feel like there's been such a shift.
Yeah.
I mean, like I remember not even like having cable.
Yeah.
Okay. And then like I remember like what computer games used to look like.
Yeah.
And then things have come so far.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's like, and I'm not that old. I mean, and then think about like mom and dad, like people their age, like how much change they've seen.
It's insane.
It is so insane. And it's
Yeah.
not that long.
I remember when I bought my first HD TV. It was like a big deal.
It's really crazy to see how far things have come.
Yeah.
It's interesting. And it must have been even crazier for someone who knew about this stuff
Yeah.
and see how far like space travel has
Yeah,
come.
and like we consider, I feel like even today, I don't know, it's crazy to read these novels and think that just his hopeful view of space travel, it's like, it's 2021, and like just in the news now is that China launched a rocket and it crashed coming back. Like we
Right.
can't even fucking launch and land.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's also interesting to read like, this novel and then this be the future from the novel. We're in the future right now from this novel. And then to think about like how I was saying like reading the Ready Player One books, like how will those look, in the future? Like what from that might be true or might not be. Like it's just it's weird, I guess, to like read things that are old, us now being in the future, than
Okay.
reading things that are new and not knowing what the future is going to be
In
like.
that case, Heather, I would love to do a bonus episode with you about Snow Crash. Snow Crash
Okay. You've told me about that before.
is Ready Player One 30 years before, or 20 years before Ready Player One was written. And then you can actually see that what he was writing about in the early 90s is how we're very close to how we're living now in terms of like video games and an online experience.
Yeah. But
it's
also,
amazing.
You know what's crazy is when the last episode that I listened to with you and Mallory, and you were talking about that thing that's like the virtual reality.
Yeah.
And there's a whole part in Ready Player 2 that's like literally that exact same idea. So, I mean, he must have that, what is that guy's name? Ernest Cline.
Yeah.
He must have been familiar with, Clarke's work.
Yeah.
But there's that whole, it's like a whole other thing where they record all of these experiences, and then you literally like I don't know, your thing goes like into your brain.
Nice.
And you can only be on it for so long before it will start to like negatively affect your brain.
Okay.
But it allows people to have any experience and feel like they're doing it, like actually doing it.
Right.
And I was like, that's so crazy, because that's like literally what he was writing about however many years ago. And then we're still like, whoa,
dude,
that's crazy.
The movie, and it's based on a Philip K. Dick, I don't know, either novel or short story, is Total Recall. Like, that's what Total Recall is about.
Oh,
it's
yeah?
about they can implant the memories of a vacation in your head so that you feel like you went and did this amazing thing. And you have the memories of it, but you didn't actually go. So it's like far cheaper, you know what I mean, to have these amazing experiences.
But then people obviously, like in Ready Player 2, they get obsessed with it, and nobody wants to like live their life. I mean, I think that's what was happening in Ready Player 1 anyway.
Right. When
they were in the Oasis, like you could be anything you want to be.
Yeah.
But in this takes it a step further. And I think that is scary. I think that's like, that's also social media, because I mean, if you think about it, on Instagram, yes, you're showing yourself, it's not like an avatar, but that's one of the problems people have, is like people only show like what's perfect about them. Like I think if that were to really be invented in some way, people 100% would live in that world. They would like. I
probably would rather live in that world right now. You could do crazy shit. I'm down.
Yeah.
I might get lost. I'm just saying, like, I'm a gamer. Like, I'm one of the kind of people who would get addicted, I think.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
But I think it's interesting because in Ready Player 2, there's a risk to it. Like, you can only stay logged in for a certain amount of time because it's going to mess up your brain.
Right.
So, and that ends up being like a bigger part of the story, but it's like, what would you risk to do that? I guess. I don't know. It's just kind of, it's just kind of interesting. It will be interesting to see what happens. I mean, who knows? Maybe somebody is somehow developing this. I don't think so, but
what, VR?
No, but like a more immersive VR.
Michael Crichton wrote a novel in 1991 that's all about, well, it's about something else, but the people involved work at a company that's what they're developing is VR. And so like, and this is like early 90s, and he describes a lot of things in that one that did eventually kind of become true about like gaming and like online avatars and stuff. But, well, I was going to say that's the only that novel is about like legal stuff.
Oh.
But that's the only sci-fi moment in that whole novel, is at the very end. He goes into their like prototype VR thing.
Yeah.
And like, he just describes what that's like and figures out something to do with like the mystery via doing that.
Yeah.
But it's just a really cool scene because it's the only sci-fi thing in the whole novel. And it's just cool the way he describes it, man. He describes like when you're in the VR, if you see someone else who's also in the VR, like it's in a prototype stage. So they have like their employee photo is like just stuck to the face of the VR of the person. It's just like a shape of a human walking around. And it's like their employee photo is just taped to the face. So that, because it's prototype, you know what I mean? So it's just like the way you would know if you're in the VR, like who is who.
Yeah.
It was really cool. This is like very primitive version of what like became VR / online gaming.
Yeah.
Very cool. Crichton is my homie. I very much want to do a podcast about all his books, but
I've only read one of his books, Airframe, but it was absolutely awesome. And I
Yeah.
feel like it taught me a lot about airplanes.
yeah.
And maybe I should be like more afraid of them after reading that book, but I'm kind of less, not that I'm afraid of flying, but I feel like it kind of made me feel better.
Really?
Yeah, because it's just, they were like, one of the biggest things I learned is that planes just fly themselves.
Oh, yeah.
Like, that's huge.
Definitely.
And so they really are made to do what they're doing, and they're
Yeah.
safe. It's only when like other little super weird things happen. It's
Yeah,
like,
and people neglect like safety checks and
Right.
stuff like that.
yeah.
But that's definitely major recommendation from both Heather and myself for Airframe. I read every Michael Crichton novel and I ranked them because I'm weird, and Airframe sits firmly at number 3
Oh,
out of 15.
It's
But
good.
even so, looking back, like it's still one of my favorites. It's
Yeah,
still
it's really,
very
really
much
good.
like ingrained in my memory.
it's not something that I probably ever. No, I shouldn't even say probably. It's not something that I ever would have read if you didn't tell me.
Dude,
to
I
read it.
saved it for almost last because
Yeah.
like that one too has like no science fiction, but like reading that, I remember like while I was reading every Crichton novel, I was like, it's about an airplane. Like I'm
Yeah.
gonna read that way later, and it ended up being amazingly good.
Yeah, and good characters and good main
Yeah.
character who's a female.
Yup. Casey, isn't that her name?
I was going to say Cassie, but I think you're right. I think it's
Casey?
Casey.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, that's a good book, but we don't want Michael Crichton getting too much into our Clarke time here.
Yeah. Wait. So let's address what people said in the Facebook group.
Oh, okay. I saw that you posted that, but I
Yeah.
didn't see. Nobody had answered. Nobody had said anything yet.
I have a few comments now. Most of them are pretty similar. What do you think they all say?
Oh, the comments. What do I think they all say?
Yeah. What do you think these other Clarke fans say?
That it's probably like a little more simple than his other books, not as like in depth, not as many ideas.
And that it would make a great movie.
It would make a great movie.
Yeah. So let's see. This is someone named Hadrian says, it's Clarke's most accessible novel, and with the deep range, it's the most human. However, it has much more powerful plot than the episodic deep range. I disagree completely with that, but that's okay. In fact, it's an almost perfect disaster novel, and you're almost tempted to ask if Paul Gallico had read it and lifted a few characters from the Celine's passenger list to put in the SS Poseidon. You know about the Poseidon adventure?
Well, yeah.
About the boat?
Yeah.
So he's just saying they're very similar.
Oh, okay.
And then he said, you can understand why Clarke and McQuitty wanted it filmed. It's very cinematic in terms of narrative and casting. Indeed, it made a fine radio play in 1980, which may well be the best dramatic adaptation of a published Clarke work.
Somebody make this into a movie.
Yeah, it couldn't be that hard. Somebody else, Gordon says, couldn't agree more that this would make a great film. Of course, there are no space battles or big explosions, so it might not appeal to the average viewer.
No, it would. I think it would.
Yeah, I mean,
who's
The
this,
Martian.
Gordon?
Hello, The Martian.
Yeah.
The Martian was a huge success. It was nominated for Oscars.
I get what Gordon's saying. Just you'd have to market it as exactly what it is.
Yeah, and you
Because
just
we'll get into bad marketing, in my opinion, about one of the movies that we watched for this
yeah,
podcast. But you'd have to market it as just that. People would love it.
yeah, I agree.
The tension is in like the rescue and the group of people in the ship. And can you imagine the moments of like the end of this would be, the end of it would be so good. I feel like that's where in film form you would be like, oh my gosh, like
yeah, the music.
what's going to
yeah.
happen? Yeah.
Someone named Roman says would make a good film. The bit when Hanstein puts himself to sleep would be funny little twist if this were an action sci-fi. I remember that part. Remember when Hanstein, like, I feel like you think he's going to do something to someone else, but then he just puts himself to sleep, like, instantly.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. I mean, I do agree, because it is kind of like, because he's like the hero, and then he goes to sleep.
Yeah.
Remember? All right. And then last one, someone named David says, an excellent book would make a terrific disaster movie. It was done as a BBC Radio 4 play a long time ago. I used to have it on cassette. So
Wow.
Heather did agree. Did you agree that you'll read or listen to that?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so we're going to do a bonus episode next week. Is going to be about that BBC Radio dramatization. I sampled it a little bit. It sounds really cool.
Oh, cool.
You know, it's like, I don't know if you know what that means, but it's like it has music, it has sound effects, it has acting.
That's awesome.
It's really cool. So it's basically just an audio movie.
Cool. I'm down.
Yeah, I'm excited. And it's only 90 minutes, and you can get it free on YouTube. So if you're listening to this and you're curious, you can do that.
And thank you, everybody, for all your comments.
Yeah, that's totally awesome. Hopefully you guys listen. Like, 'cause that's kind of the point, is to say, like, hey, like, we're going to talk about what you have to say. And it's like, now that it's published, are you curious about what we said? You know,
Yeah.
so hopefully they listen.
Little shout outs.
Yeah, I agree with pretty much everything those people have said. So,
And it's very accessible. I think we've been saying that, if not in that exact term.
yeah,
Very accessible. It's very human. I think we were saying that too, and somebody said the same thing. So
yeah. I think this is like the first romance in a Clarke novel in the chronology of it. Seems like
I
it.
was wondering about that.
Actually, well, no. Well, in the Deep Rain, she gets married, but it's not really like, I don't know. I guess that's not really true. But anyway. All right, you want to talk about the movies?
Sure.
What do you want to do first?
We can talk about Operation Avalanche if you want, since I just was kind of talking about it, and that I think that it was kind of marketed poorly. Not that that movie was marketed
I was just going
to
to say, was it marketed? Like, before I watched it, I thought that I was the perfect audience for it, and I'd never heard of it. It came out 6 years ago. You know what I mean? Like,
I'd never heard of it either, so I literally typed in, I think, like...
What's up, Space Dreamers? I'm so happy that you've made it this far into the episode. But real quick, you've been hearing this whole time about the Selene 1. You ready for the Selene 5? Don't ask what happened to 2, 3, and 4.
The Selene 5 sets sail this winter. Celebrate Christmas on the moon in one of Pico Valley's best hotels. While you're here, take a ride on the Selene 5, the smoothest ride in the solar system. The molten rivers of Venus are too rough for a great many folks, so take the easy way across the Sea of Thirst. Witness Earthlight glinting off the mountains of inaccessibility. Listen to Roy Harris, great-grandson of Pat and Sue Harris of the famed Selene 1, tell stories about his grandfather and that harrowing rescue down under the moon dust. Book your cruise today and sail the seas of dust. Complimentary copy of The Orange and the Apple provided upon arrival.
You don't know what the orange and the apple is? Don't worry, there's an ad for that.
The Orange and the Apple took the solar system by storm last winter upon its release, but now, a new reason to buy. The intense rescue of the crew and passengers of the Selene moon cruiser last month could not have been pulled off without a copy of The Orange and the Apple. Some complain of the book's gargantuan length. Some complain of the sappy romantic dialogue. Some complain of the 50-page sex scenes. But few upon the doomed Selene complained when the tome plugged an oxygen leak and saved everyone aboard. Buy your copy today, now with reinforced backing front covers, so you're never without something to stuff into a dark hole.
I don't know what I don't know how I worded it, but I was looking for movies about the moon that we maybe didn't know about,
Okay.
like kind of flying under the radar a little bit. So this one was on the list, and the way that the trailer is, it seems like a mockumentary, like a comedy, and that's like not what it is.
It is a mockumentary.
Well, right, but it's
I
not
would
a comedy.
say,
It's a found footage
I mean,
movie.
if you think that main guy is funny, then yeah, it's a comedy.
So-
but you got to think he's funny.
But I mean, I thought parts of it were funny.
I agree.
But I also feel like it's one of those movies that like starts off one way and then like ends differently. And when I was watching it, well, I'm sure no one has heard of this movie. So it's called Operation Avalanche, and it is about, and it came out in 2016.
Yeah.
And it is about these guys who work for the CIA, and they, I'm looking at my notes about it here. So during the Cold War, when the U.S. and the Soviet Union were racing,
It opens
the space race.
Yeah, I think it starts in 1965.
Yeah, it opens with Kennedy's speech.
Yeah.
So they believe that there's a mole at NASA from the Soviet Union so that's like a problem, obviously. So they have these guys from the CIA that pretend to be a documentary film crew to figure out who the mole is. And while they're doing that, they like bug everybody's phones or whatever. And so while they're doing it, they hear this conversation that the U.S. cannot land on the moon. Like they say it's like 5 more years or something. Like they can't do it.
We can go to the moon. We can orbit the moon. We
Yeah.
can come back from the moon, but we cannot land.
But we can't land on it. So then they're like off the project. And then one of the guys is like, well, what we can do instead is we can film a fake moon landing to like insert into the broadcast, and then
Yeah.
everybody will think that we landed on the moon, but we actually didn't. So that's
Right.
the story. And then by the end of it, so they do all that. And then by the end of it, the CIA is like trying to eliminate them because they know.
Yeah. And here,
That's not true.
Herein lies my major problem with this movie. The major problem that I have with this movie is that it gives validity to people who think that the moon landing was fake. I thought when I watched this movie, right, that it was going to be a complete retelling of history.
Yeah.
But what it really is it's the moon landing could have been faked, and this is how it could have happened.
Right.
And I don't like that sentiment. B, it would have been more interesting. Like, Stanley Kubrick is mentioned in the trailer, and that them going to Stanley Kubrick is like 10 minutes out of the whole movie. You know?
Yeah.
Like,
What is he filming? 2001 Space Odyssey?
yeah. Which
Yeah.
that was cool. Like, those scenes were sick when it showed like the actual set of 2001. As someone who loved the movie, like, I recognize, like, I look at it and I go, oh, that's 2001. I know exactly.
Which
what
is
scene
probably
that
why
is.
I just had to assume it was that, because I'd
Right.
never seen that movie. But I was like, I'm sure that's what this is.
So, so like by the end of the movie, the idea is that even the people at NASA don't even know that they're not really landing
Right.
on the moon. And that's what I'm watching, like, because my whole thing with the faking the moon landing is that it just landing on the moon is easier than faking a moon landing.
Right.
That is my opinion. I'm not the only person who thinks that. And so what this movie suggests is that, like, that you could trick all these people. I just don't believe it. I don't buy
Right.
it even a little bit that you would be able to do that.
Yeah, I mean, it is. It also, it's weird because these guys don't know what they're doing. Like, they don't know what they're doing, and they're like making it up as they go along. And you'd think that if they really were going to fake this, they would have people who like were actual filmmakers.
That's what I'm saying, dude.
Like,
That's
it's
what-
weird that this guy just like figures all of this out.
Yeah, I know. I was just thinking while watching it that I wanted it to be like a full, like, everyone was in on this
Yeah.
idea, where it was this. It was framed. Obviously, they're not saying this actually happened, but it's framed in a way to say that, like, yes, like the conspiracy to fake the moon landing. This is how it could have happened.
Right.
But it's like, I'm not really interested in that.
And that everybody that knew about it was killed.
Yeah, and I mean, that's the thing, dude, is one of the reasons, in my opinion, there's just logistically, like, if you just stop for 2 seconds and you think about logistically actually faking the moon landing and having everyone at NASA know about it, there's just no way that you can do that.
Yeah.
Too many people. But if you take the approach that this movie takes, where not even NASA knew that everyone who worked in NASA at that time, I mean, was under the impression that we landed on the moon, but
Right.
we didn't. I just don't
Right.
buy it. Like, I don't think, certainly not today, I don't think the United States government is capable of things that are that complicated
Right.
and pulled off that well, as we've seen.
Yeah.
The United States, we fuck up everything we ever do, like, for the first time. You know? Like, it's just, 2020 is a really good example. Like, we're
Right.
not prepared. We cannot do things on a big scale well.
Yeah.
Maybe it was easier in the 60s. I doubt it. But
Well, and remember what their backup plan was? If they couldn't shoot it, they were going to shoot down the Apollo 11 and blame it on the Soviets.
yeah.
Like, oh my God.
Yeah, that
That's awful.
yeah, that part in the movie though was cool. Like, there were definitely moments in the movie that I was like engaged. Like, I was like, "Oh, that's cool." But for most of it, I was just. And also, dude, I mentioned this while I was watching it. Like, I remember, like, every scene in that movie is the same. The main guy is really excited
I
about
know,
something,
yeah.
and someone comes up and pops his bubble.
You know what I thought was
Every single scene is like that.
You know what I thought was funny when they were doing like the test shoot, and he had the friend who was like pretty reluctant about the whole thing,
That guy
like
sucked,
in
dude.
the spacesuit, and he was like,
outta
"You have
here,
to
dude."
leap."
Yeah.
Like jump, and then
Yeah.
he was like showing him how to walk in the suit, and it was like jumping, and then just like that part was funny, but in the end it's like a total thriller. It's like
Yeah.
like that whole car chase was
The
really
car chase was
cool,
pretty
and then
good.
when he went over to his friend's house and opened the garage door and his friend was hanging, I was just like, oh shit, like
The
this
movie,
is-
yeah. That was far enough into the runtime that I had already I'd lost interest by then.
Well,
So I
yeah.
remember seeing that and being like, that's kind of interesting if I still cared. But like,
But I think at that point I was like, oh, this movie is like just different than what I thought it was going to be, and different than like the beginning of. I think it almost would have been better if it had just been like a comedy and been funny. I don't know.
I agree.
I just think
like, yeah, I think you keep the sinister tone. Like, you keep stuff like that guy going, yeah, if this fails, we're just going to shoot down the Apollo rocket.
yeah,
Like, keep that stuff. But then, yeah, when people start dying and people getting shot, like, got people shooting at each other, it's like,
and I kind of, maybe it's because I wasn't really into it, but I was like, I found the end like a little hard to follow. I got a little mixed up with like who was who at certain points. And truth be told, I was starting to fall asleep by the end of the movie.
yeah. The one
So
godsend is that movie's only 94 minutes.
it is
Which
short.
was nice.
And it I think it like premiered at Sundance. That is like a total Sundance movie. Like I can imagine that was like, I can just imagine that
Yeah.
at the Sundance Film Festival, like people watching it. And it was probably cooler to watch it in that sense
Yeah.
than to watch it at home on your own. And a lot of the people play like they use their real names and stuff, which is kind of like, remember like Blair Witch Project? They all
Yeah.
use their actual names.
Dude, and at the end of the movie, it was like, it would say the actor's name and it would say himself. I'm
Yeah.
like, he's not playing himself. Like,
I know.
What the fuck? Why
I
would you
know.
say that? But okay,
Well, they didn't even need to give them like last names. They could have just been like, Matt was played by Matt. I don't know.
yeah.
The movie had good music too. I mean, it didn't have a lot of songs in
Yeah.
it, but they were all
60s
good.
essentials. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you look up the crew who made it?
I mean, I looked it up.
The main character is the director and writer.
Oh yes, I did see that. I did.
Did you see what
that.
his first movie is? It's kind of interesting.
No, I don't know.
It's a mockumentary about high school, and he enrolled in a high school
Oh my
and
gosh.
filmed it the
It's
way
like Never Been Kissed.
the way the movie that you're watching is filmed. And then I read somewhere, I don't know if this is true because it sounds like bullshit, but I read somewhere that they did the same thing at NASA. that for
What?
this movie,
No, that can't be true.
they pretended they were a documentary film crew.
Oh my God, the NASA has got some serious problems.
Dude, okay,
that doesn't seem
This is
true.
another issue with that movie. In episode 1 of this podcast, we talked about a book wherein the main character is a historian meant to record the going to the moon. So I had Amy look up, is that true?
Oh,
and what we
yeah.
discovered is that NASA has their own historians, their own people who do this. These fucking ding-dongs from the CIA are not just going to come into NASA and be like, we're making a documentary. NASA's going to be like, we have a department who does that already. Leave.
Yeah, well, and remember in the beginning when they pitch their idea, and the guy's like, they're not going to let you film, and they're like, we're filming you right now. I'm like, that's the friggin' CIA. Like, what? They don't know.
That scene was good though, because that convinced me just like it convinced him. You know what I mean?
But I liked the way that this movie looked. Like, I liked the whole found footage aspect to it. And I'm not huge into found footage movies, but I liked the way it was stitched together. Like, I think that's what's kind of fun about found footage movies is you sometimes a scene starts in the middle of something, in the middle of the action. So you kind of are just you're sort of piecing things together. And I did like that about this. And I think it's when there's action and things get a little shaky and you're like, can't you just film this better? But they can't because it's not an actual movie.
And you usually end up watching whole scenes in one shot, which is, I mean, obviously we love that.
Right.
That was one of the most impressive parts. And I don't know if there was CGI used, but in the car chase scene, I remember being like, I wonder how they're doing this. I remember thinking, there's no way he's driving.
Yeah.
But then they would show the front and then they would show the back, and it wasn't like they were on a trailer, so he must have been driving. But if there was CGI involved, then he probably wasn't. But if it really was all one shot, I found that really cool and really
I thought
impressive.
the chase was cool. That could have just been where they were. They could have just had a good stretch of road.
Yeah,
in order to do that on.
I mean, it seems dangerous to have that guy driving in those old shitty boat 60s cars on that dirt road. It just seems, I don't know, it seems like it would be better and safer if they did it on a trailer. I don't know. But I don't know. I wasn't there. I don't know how they did it. But either way, I was tricked. Watching it, I was very intrigued and interested. And
so I don't think either of us is really recommending.
Yeah, and I watched it with Amy and Mallory.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, because yesterday I finished this book. I read 120 pages. So I was like, and then I was like, well, now I got to watch that movie. I was like, I do not want to stay at this house. So I hit up Amy and Mallory and I was like, do you want to watch this sci-fi movie? So they were probably really annoyed by me because I was talking shit about the movie the whole time I was watching it, pretty much.
Oh, did they like it?
They did. But then there were a couple points where they agreed. So like with any found footage movie, there's certainly times I feel where you're going to be like, okay, who is filming this? You know what I mean?
Right.
But usually I think that's not a problem, especially because most found footage movies are made now when anyone could be filming anything at any time.
Right.
But in this movie, there were definitely a couple scenes where I was like, who's filming this? And why? When every time he was digging that hole, it's like, why would anyone film? Why would you film this? He's doing something.
Yeah.
He's trying to fucking hide evidence. You wouldn't film it.
But maybe they were just doing that because they wanted someone to know what happened.
Not only that, they address it in the movie at one point. Dude, cameras back then were fucking huge and fucking noisy. Yeah. They were really noisy. You had film. You can't hide that.
Well, so you have to, I don't know. The movie's fine. It's cool in its own ways. I don't think either of us is saying oh, go out and watch it.
I would argue, though, I would say that movies like this are cool, right?
Yeah.
And they get people's attention. And I'd say there's a reason I never heard of this movie, and it's 6 years old.
Yeah.
This kind of thing would be, if it was good, I think it would be more, people would be aware of it.
Yeah, it would be amazing.
The fact that I've never heard of this movie as me, just, I don't know. And also, while I was watching it, like I just couldn't. Maybe I'm like a space snob, even though I shouldn't be because I don't really know that much about it.
Yeah.
While I was watching, I was like, I am not the audience for this movie. Like it doesn't seem like it's for people who are interested in actual space flight.
No, but it doesn't have anything to do with space. That's the thing.
Yeah, but it has to do with NASA, which is real, and about going to space.
Yeah, but
And didn't the trailer make it seem like it was about copying Kubrick?
I don't know. I didn't really remember the trailer. I just thought it looked funny.
Okay, so the one other thing I will say is, and this is another thing that Amy and Mallory agreed with me, is that there's no sense of time in the movie.
Yeah.
Like I thought it was going to be about the process of faking the moon landing, and it was almost like maybe like 75% into the movie or something. They were like done.
Yeah.
They were like done doing that, and then it was like, okay, what else is this going to be about? I mean, I know it's about the spies and blah blah blah, but yeah, it's a fine movie. We watched it.
Yeah.
It's for free. If you have Amazon, you can watch it for free.
What the hell?
Sorry.
I rented it.
Yeah,
it was
you got
like $3.99.
You got to check all the things, I guess. I don't know. No, but
I watched The Watch. I friggin' rented that
Okay,
and then
wait.
found it for free on HBO.
Did you know that on PS4, if you go to how there's a symbol that's a TV,
Yeah.
and it's like My Videos. It's like video content.
Yeah.
So if you click on that, and then you go up to search, like if you don't
It'll
search,
search everything?
yeah, if you don't search in the store, if you search in that video thing, it'll tell you what app, whatever you're searching for, you can get it in.
Oh, okay. I think I just forget about Amazon because technically I don't have it. It's Amy's.
Yeah, me too. So, I mean, yeah, I don't know. It's a fun movie. A lot of people take movies less seriously than I do, so I'm sure you would enjoy it
Yeah.
if you watched it. I was talking a lot of shit while watching it, but that's just me.
Should we?
Yeah, let's talk about
The Faculty.
The Faculty. Okay, so why did we choose this one? Didn't I suggest it?
Yeah, but I don't know I don't know how you thought of it.
I think just because I don't know. I don't either. But so The Faculty is from 1998, directed by Robert Rodriguez, written by the people who wrote Scream, and it was like a success, like it was made, I think, for like 15 million. It made like 50 million, and like it's got good actors, critically well received. It's like a good movie.
Yeah, as I say, it's a total time capsule
Yeah.
to the time it was made.
Yep.
1997
probably when it was filmed.
Yeah, so like for me, I loved watching it because I hadn't seen it in a long time, but I loved this movie, and there's nostalgia. Like it just takes me back to like simpler times. And the people that are in it, like Elijah Wood, Josh Hartnett, like Usher, like it just has people who are just like really of the moment.
Even Shooter McGavin is in it, dude.
Shooter McGavin, that's right.
Yeah.
And the girl who plays Stokely, what the heck is her name? Cleo something Duvall. She, I feel like, was in a lot of movies.
Who's Stokely?
Back then. The weird goth girl, the girl who like knows about aliens.
Yeah. That was pretty cool. That was very sci-fi because she referenced science fiction. So that's another thing I know. Like I didn't necessarily pick up on this while I was watching it, but when you like read about it, the movie is not a ripoff. You could watch it and say this is a ripoff of other sci-fi concepts, but it's really an homage.
Yeah.
Like, remember the shot, right, where I think Elijah Wood like jumps out his window or something, and he falls onto his front lawn, and he looks up, and the three teachers, and their faces are blacked out, but you can tell who they are. Like that was very like 1950s, like Twilight Zone,
Yeah, or it seemed almost like Hitchcock.
And the scene, I thought this while watching it, where they're in. Testing who's an alien by inhaling the stuff. I'm like, this is the thing. Like, this is straight out of The Thing. And when her head sprouts legs and walks, that is 100% a Thing ripoff. I'm going to call that a ripoff. That is not homage. That's a ripoff.
Oh, okay. I've seen The Thing, but I didn't remember. I mean, the scene when they're testing in The Thing is like better than.
Way better.
Yeah.
Well, The Thing is a masterpiece. The Thing is, in my opinion, like, one of the greatest sci-fi movies ever made. But
well, so in case anybody out there has never heard of The Faculty, it's pretty awesome, and it's about this school, which is like a total shitty school.
Yeah,
like, but it has a nice pool.
True.
They needed a pool.
Yep.
So these teachers get taken over by aliens, and there's a group of students. Again, you have this like real Breakfast Club, like unlikely grouping of students who sort of come together to figure out like what's going on and then to stop the alien invasion, because most of the other students in the school, if not all, have also been taken over by aliens. So you're kind of left with just this group, this small group. And you've got a jock, you've got a nerd, you've got like the bad boy, you've got the head cheerleader, Miss Perfect, you've got the goth girl, and then you've got the newcomer. Yeah. We'll call her.
Are we going to give away the ending? Why not? It's old.
Yeah.
I remember it's weird watching it now. Like, I remembered Famke Jem, whatever her name is. I remember her being an alien from when I was a kid watching this, but I remember, like, when the movie started, I was like, I forget who is the OG alien. But as soon as that new girl showed up, I was like, I remember.
See, I remembered.
Not only do I remember, watching it now, it's like, it's so obvious that she's the alien.
You know what's cool to think about, though? Remember the very first scene when it's like the coach and he's like, can I help you or whatever?
Yes.
It was that girl.
Yes.
Like, that's what I think is kind of a cool thing to think about, is that, somebody like clearly walks over to the coach. You don't see them. And he's like, what do you want? And it must have been this like little pretty blonde girl.
Yeah. And I love,
which is cool to think about.
Yeah. And I love how, like, I love his character because he's such an asshole, like a stereotypical like jock asshole coach guy. And then but you only see that for like 2 scenes. And then he's the alien. Yeah,
but you also, so I think the beginning scene with Principal Drake, like when they're leaving the meeting and he stops her, I love that scene. I think it's really well done. I think it's really scary because, like, so the principal goes back in to get her keys. It's nighttime. The principal's like, oh, shoot, I forgot my keys. I have to go get them. So she goes back to her office. She grabs her keys. And when she turns around, the coach is standing there. And she's like, what are you doing here? But then she's like, have you been drinking?
Yeah.
So you get an idea that, like, the coach is, like, not a cool guy. But the thing that's cool about that scene is take away aliens, take away that whole concept. A woman in a dark school in a dark building with nobody else in it, and a man who you think is drunk. That's scary in itself.
Oh yeah.
So I really like that scene because, like, so then he's like, do you have a pencil? And she's like, oh my God, yes. And then, he like jams it right through her hand. And up until that, it's still really scary because she's, obviously worried about what this guy's going to do. I think that that's like a really good scene. And then when he's like blowing the whistle and chasing after her, it's like so scary. Yeah, I love that scene.
It's a very good opening scene. And I will say, this movie is, I mean, I would say it's like an even blend, but there's a lot of horror in it.
Yeah,
more so than sci-fi.
Yeah, there's definitely
like a lot
horror.
of scenes are very much just horror, and then like the lady in the shower.
Oh,
that's just like horror. That's hardly sci-fi, It's
yeah,
just like
that's
creepy
gross.
Shit.
That's really gross.
The
one thing I have to say about the Famke Janssen, what's going on with her and Zeke? What are they, like, dating at the end?
I don't know.
Like, remember, he's like now on the football team and she's like, hi. She's just like waving at him from the bleachers. And I'm like, what is going on?
Yeah, I don't
like,
know.
what's happening? So one thing that I think is funny about this movie is, so when someone becomes an alien, if you're a woman, you like get hot.
Really?
Yeah. Like
What, Salma
The
Hayek
coach-
isn't hot before she's...
the coach is normal. He looks like himself. When the drama teacher lady, she's like all messy hair and wears glasses, and she's all just like, oh, we want to do guys and dolls.
Oh, yeah.
And then when she comes into work the next day, she like has her hair all done and she doesn't have her glasses anymore, and she's like wearing makeup. And then
Well, I think the
when
aliens...
Salma Hayek, she's just like, wearing her little nurse's
Yeah,
outfit.
yeah.
And then do you see her in the part when she's like doing the ear exam, and she's got like a little nurse's outfit on, and she's like beautiful. And then the Famke Jensen lady,
Yeah.
she is like
Well, okay.
supposed to be nerdy
Well,
with her
just-
glasses
okay,
on.
Hold on. If you're an alien and you know the human race, you probably know that hot women can get people to do things.
Yeah. So I just thought that was funny. And I don't know that I'd ever like noticed that before. But it doesn't happen to the students, because like you don't, like the Jordana Brewster character gets like, well, I don't know. You don't see, that's the thing about this. You don't know when some of the characters become aliens,
True.
because you don't know, because obviously that scene wouldn't work when they're testing everybody.
There's I think the whole not knowing who's an alien, I think this movie could use a little more explanation as to like what are the aliens doing, and like did they just happen, like did they decide on that school?
Yeah.
Like, remember the scene, like, okay, in The Thing, it's very clear and very good when, if there are, say there are 3 characters in a scene, if they're not showing themselves to be the Thing, that means that someone is, it means that more than one person is human. Because if you have 2 aliens and 1 human, there's no reason to pretend to be human. You just attack the human and take their body. So that is just so well defined in The Thing. In this movie, it's like, what are the aliens doing? Like, why? I mean, I know that they're parasites and maybe they're just using the body.
Yeah.
But like, remember when they walk? It's a great shot. But remember when they walk by the classroom and all the students are
Yeah. I don't
like,
know
so
what
they're all
doing.
aliens. So what are they doing?
Maybe they're just like, okay, look like students.
But why?
Well, but
For
the
who?
other thing that I don't know. But the other thing that you kind of wonder is like, since Mary Beth is like from Atlanta, like, and if that's the body that she took over, or whatever, that the queen took over, did they already change everybody in Atlanta?
I
You know
doubt
what
it.
I mean?
don't know. Yeah,
like,
yeah.
why did she go to get this?
Yeah, dude. And if they love water, dude, go to a city and spit your little parasites into the water system. Like, that's how you do it.
I love also Jon Stewart in this movie.
Yeah.
And actually, that's another scary scene when Casey he finds the little thing out on the field, and I like when the coach is like, "Oh, you should be on the track team," and he's like, "I don't run unless someone's chasing me," and it's like, "Well, you're gonna get your chance."
Yeah, right.
But like, he brings the little thing in, and then that's when you find out that the Josh Hartnett character is like a loser, but he's actually super smart, and because he knows all about the friggin' thing that they find. And so then when they put it in the water, and it like
Sprouts little things.
yes, and it's like creepy. It's like startles me. It's really cool. And then when it bites his finger, and like, just like knowing that was going to happen, I'm just like, ugh.
And even I love in that shot, and I do not remember this from seeing it as a kid, when she puts her hand on
Yes.
the...
Oh, you didn't remember that?
Nah.
I do remember
She
that.
puts her hand on the glass, and it makes the exact shape.
Yeah.
It's just like, I don't know, it's almost like communicating mimicry. Like, this
Yeah.
thing wants to be human.
Right. I think that's like exactly
But,
what
I mean,
it's doing.
the movie certainly works without those explanations, but I find myself just being like, what's the plan here?
Like they're just taking over.
And like, why do they love water? I mean, like, why don't you just go live in the ocean? If you love water so much, take over the ocean. No human's going to stop you from doing that. We can't penetrate the ocean. Like, you could
We're ruining our oceans anyway.
the aliens could own that shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But instead, they're like taking over like a school, and like, I get the whole water thing, but then she's like swimming in the pool, and it's like, dude, you're an alien. Like, that pool probably has so many fucking chemicals in it.
I know.
Like, are you cool with that?
Yeah.
Like, as an alien?
I love after that scene when Zeke goes in the room and he's like, why are you naked?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
But then that scene's cool too, because like, you know, Stokely's like, I'm real and she's the alien. And she's like, no, I'm real and she's the alien. But then you find out that they're both aliens. Like, because we knew obviously that the Mary Beth girl was an alien. But I think that's the scene when you find out that Stokely is also.
Stokely the goth girl?
Yeah.
She's an alien?
Yeah.
I think she becomes an alien right there.
Right then is when she becomes an alien?
I would assume on the bleachers,
I don't
right?
know.
No, because she attacks her.
Yeah, but you don't know that yet. She like grabs her. Do you remember that part when she grabs her and slams her down on the,
In the blood? Yeah,
yes,
but before
I remember that.
Before that, they're talking, and the blonde girl attacks her, and that's when you as the audience know that the blonde girl is an alien.
Yeah, but I don't think I knew that Stokely was an alien.
But I'm saying at that moment, that's the moment where she turns her. When she reveals.
Well, I didn't pick up on that.
This is my exact point, dude, with the thing. Why would, if they're both aliens, why would she attack her?
When?
Dude.
At the pool?
Yes. That's when.
I don't know. It's to trick you. Because she's chasing them.
But what I'm saying is, when the two of them are talking and you as the audience don't know that the blonde girl is the alien.
Right.
At that moment, Stokely is not an alien.
Right.
So she attacks her, turns her into an alien. That's when she becomes an alien.
Okay. I guess I didn't pick up on that.
Why would she attack her if she was an alien? If they're both aliens.
No, I didn't pick up on that. She made her an alien just then. I assumed that she made her an alien when we didn't see it. It happened off camera.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's like just cool when you're like, oh, I don't know who, like Zeke's like, I don't know who to believe. And then like you find out that they're both aliens, so it doesn't really matter.
And then that was pretty cool when they kill the principal, because you're supposed to think that she's the alien.
Yeah, they think that she's the queen.
And her death is pretty like visually intense.
Yeah.
You know?
And the Jon Stewart death is good too, because he rips the knife off of the paper cutter.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And then, well, and that's when they also find out that the drug that Zeke is selling, I like that it's in pens.
That whole thing is weird. I feel like that doesn't age well. Or maybe it's just weird, dude.
Yeah, it is weird.
Was that going on in your high school? Were people like doing homemade drugs? Like,
no, but I think that I think that that's something that's strictly in there to move the story forward, because it's just like how the girl in Signs leaves glasses of water everywhere. It's literally exactly that.
Yeah.
But what I think is weird about that part is, remember when those two like druggy guys come up to him and they're like, "Oh, you got any more of your stuff?" And they're like, "We'll take it all." And then he's like, "You got any more?" And then it shows him like putting them in his pocket. If those two were aliens, why would they want that stuff? You know what I mean? Like,
are they aliens?
I don't know. But
Maybe
you think that it would...
they know that it's the poison and they want to destroy it.
How would they know that?
I don't know. And wait, so he, the weird thing too, like he's supposed to be like really smart, right?
Yeah.
But then it's almost played off like he's supposed to be full of shit and like a hack, because they go, "Oh, this is your secret ingredient, caffeine pills." So are people just snorting his caffeine pill? Like, is that what he's doing? Just crushing up caffeine? Okay,
well, I
so
think
is
there's
it
other
really...
stuff in it too, but yeah.
That it's just weird because the tone in that moment, it's like kind of saying that he's a hack, but I think that he's not supposed to be. No,
but I think he's supposed to be smart, but he's also like probably a good businessman.
True.
And so it's like, and he's got a good tagline, guaranteed to jack you up.
Yeah.
And then I love when Elijah Wood's character says it at the end to the alien.
Oh, yeah.
He's like, guaranteed to jack you up. And it's like, I just love it.
Yeah.
It's just really funny.
It's nerdy.
There's other things that are like so funny in this movie. Like the way that Josh Hartnett like drives his car into the school in the beginning. It's like someone is going to die with someone driving around like that.
Yeah.
And then like that, I do like how they like go around and show all the characters and like put their names on the screen. and the Elijah Wood character, they like slam his crotch into a flagpole.
Yeah.
I'm like, that would like seriously do some damage.
Yeah.
Like,
Dude, high
I'm
school.
just like, oh my God.
One of my biggest like pet peeves in movies is high school bullies.
Yeah.
They're just so exaggerated.
Oh my gosh.
And
I
I'm
know.
just like, I feel like I'm watching something that is not even remotely realistic. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I wasn't bullied, but I don't know. Bullies in movies just feel really exaggerated to me.
Another scene in this movie that I loved, and right before it's so stupid, but right before it happened, I was like, I remember this, and I feel like we used to love it, is when, so like, when the coach and the drama teacher, like right before they kill Salma Hayek and the two kids are hiding in the closet, and the lady like fills up her water cup and then just like splashes it on her face.
Yeah.
And I remember like being younger and watching this and like watching that part over again because it cracked us up. And I'm like, you guys need to get bigger cups. Like in that whole scene when they're just like, you know, it's like all the teachers are in the lounge and they're just like piling up all the water things and they're just like handing out water to each other. They're just like getting ready. Like, I just think it's so funny. And like, I don't know. I just love so many moments in this movie.
I think to the movie's credit, it doesn't take itself seriously, but it is good.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like that kind of stuff's kind of goofy. Like when he's, like you said, like when he's blowing the whistle, like he's a coach.
Oh my God, that part's
he's
freaking
like
scary,
chasing her and
though.
blowing the whistle. It's
That's
like,
horrible, though.
I know, but
can you imagine
but like if
being
you didn't,
in that?
But if you didn't know he was an alien, you'd be like, this guy's fucking crazy, dude.
Yeah.
Chasing me, blowing his coach whistle.
know, but it's like, it's actually like horrifying.
Well, of course it's horrifying.
And like the part when they when they find the alien with the Jon Stewart teacher and like all the crazy stuff is happening, at one point he's like, it's okay, it's all right. It's like, no, it's not. Like, why do you feel like this is not a big deal? And like, maybe if you're a scientist or like a science teacher, like you would just get caught up in the fact that like, oh my gosh, this is a new science discovery. If it were me, I'd be like, this is scary. Like, it's going to kill us.
Also, dude, like, why was that just chilling in the field? Like,
well,
where did it
because
come from?
remember at the end, I hate this part too. At the end, when the thing chases Elijah Wood through the stairs, through the bleachers, and it like gets stuck, and then I don't remember exactly the
it
order
shoots him
of
at
things.
his face. Is that what
Yes, I hate that part, and they're all like trying to get in his face,
yeah.
and he's just like, ah. So maybe that's what she did to the coach, and one of them like fell on the floor.
I will say I don't. The movie's just cool and it's fun and it's good, and the sci-fi doesn't have to be like 100%.
Yeah.
In my opinion, I don't think that's a very visually appealing alien. I think when it first reveals itself and it kind of still looks feminine. I don't know if you'll remember this, but it's when she's on the bleachers, it kind of still has like that hourglass shape.
Yes, yeah.
And her big arms are up. That shot is really cool. But then just like the visual design of it, I don't love. I like, especially like I was looking up like how they made the movie, and like I saw like a full model of it, and like the way it stands, like the way it like, I just don't really understand what I'm looking at when I look at it.
You know what's weird too, and maybe I'm just like not remembering this right, but you know the part at the end when they're in the locker room and she's walking around?
Yeah.
Isn't there still like a shadow of like tentacles?
Yeah.
And I'm like, but she's a inner woman form again. So
Yeah, but
where are those coming from?
Yeah, but that shot's fire.
No, it is. But I'm like, what is that?
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the other issue too. I mean, I feel like a lot of movies, again, it's all made up, but like, I think The Thing addresses this. Terminator 2 addresses this, because in that movie there's a shapeshifter that like, you got to be the same size of the thing that you're shapeshifting into, and like that thing is like the size of a house.
Yeah, it's pretty big.
And it turns into that little high school blonde girl.
Yeah.
It's just like, I don't know. Whereas I think everyone else is just has a parasite in them. I think.
No, I think you're right. Yeah, they have those little
like,
things.
Dude, as awesome as it's one of those movies that has like things that don't make sense, but because they're cool, it's fine.
Yeah.
Like, remember the shot? It's such a good shot, dude. Like, it's just so fucking punk rock or something. I don't know. Where after the football game,
Yeah.
we have to get to that too, actually. The football game is fucking awesome. But when they're all standing there in the rain,
Yeah.
and it's like the coach, and they make a pyramid,
Yeah.
and it's all the students like in their football jerseys, and they're
Yeah.
but when it flashes and he's like he looks weird on the inside.
Right,
When
right.
I'm looking at him, I'm like, what? That's just a visual trick. That doesn't make any sense. I think he's still human. You know what I mean? Not that he's
Right.
still human, but like the alien doesn't look like what you just flashed. So why would his under
I
his-
don't know.
You know what I mean? But I love that shot, and like I don't know, dude. Like them running around, like he's the coach, so he's like leading all these mindless
Yeah.
zombie like football players. So cool. But dude, okay, the football game.
Yeah.
Okay, like I just said, the sci-fi, it's just a cool, awesome movie. The sci-fi maybe doesn't have to be on point, but I think the sci-fi in the football game is so cool and so well done, dude. It's like, how are we going to spread this to another
Yeah.
school? And it's like every time they tackle him, they would have that little shot up close to the ear, and
Yeah.
they would like spit one into his ear or something.
I think so.
Like that whole scene with the music and like, dude, that performance that that the guy from Terminator puts on, where he's just being like that asshole coach.
Yeah.
But you also know that he's just like a fucking crazy alien, dude.
I know.
Like he's just so creepy.
He
in
was a
that
really
scene.
smart one to infect first because, like, remember in the very beginning when they have the practice and clearly it doesn't go well and he's like, and like,
Yeah.
like throwing the bench over. Like, the lady was smart to pick him because everyone's just like, you're kind of crazy anyway. So
Yeah. And I think a football coach too in any high school. Like I didn't play football, so like I would never talk to the coach.
Yeah.
Like, why would I ever have a reason?
Yeah.
From both like no reason and like intimidation.
Right.
So like no one. I feel like you're right. It's like a good, like no one's going to talk to him except for all these football players who are like dumb jocks who are probably easily infected.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And then it's very much this movie does very much, like I said, have that like Breakfast Club vibe that like by the end of it, like the goth girl and the jock are like dating.
Yeah.
Or I guess he's not a jock anymore.
Yeah, ex
He's quit.
jock.
And then the nerdy kid and the popular girl are also dating. Like, it's just funny. I don't know. It's a good like classic high school.
Yeah. I do like how it is cool how there is like a solid, like a few moments in the middle of the movie where it's the two opposite characters are the only ones that know the truth and have to work together.
Yeah.
It's not the whole movie, but there's like that section in the middle where it's the popular girl and Elijah Wood.
Right.
And they're totally on each other's level. They're like, what the fuck, man? Like our school is being taken over by aliens.
Well, remember how she, like, when they're talking in the bathroom and
Love that scene.
she, they call her name. Remember? She's one of the names that they call because they're just like calling students.
Oh, yeah.
And she's one of the names that they call. And then you find out later that she is an alien. So you have to wonder, like, did she go to the office and that's when she became the alien?
Yeah, but like the girl, they're with the blonde girl for like a long period of time in the movie. That girl could have infected anyone at any time.
Yeah, well, it's weird that she didn't infect Josh Hartnett when they were making out in the closet or
And that's
whatever,
the thing,
or
dude,
wherever
like-
they were getting ingredients.
Like that alien, if she's the queen, dude, she's in that basement laboratory with them, right?
Where? What?
When they're
basement?
testing each other.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because they show that she blocks her nostrils. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like she could easily just like shoot out her tentacles and kill everyone.
Well, yeah, I don't know why she doesn't do that. I
You know?
don't know why she
But
doesn't do
it's,
that.
You know, the nature of the plot. You got to keep it a secret.
Yeah. I mean that's also just like driving the plot.
Yeah.
I think it is so cool that this is directed by Robert Rodriguez. I had no idea that it was directed by him.
I think that's why it has like a cool factor to it. You
Oh,
know how
totally.
He's just very like style over substance
Yeah.
sometimes. It
And-
has that.
And like I said, I was like, well, that explains Salma Hayek.
Yeah.
Because, like,
And why it's like a bit part.
what's she doing in this movie? I mean, I love Salma Hayek, but I'm like,
I think it's the time period.
that's
you know?
weird. But I thought it was awesome that he directed it. I literally had no idea. And I was just like, okay, cool.
Yeah, and I like, just like Josh Hartnett's like outfit and demeanor and like the way he stands. It's just-
What is with his hair though? I'm like, is it supposed to look messy or is it supposed to be like he did it that way?
I don't know.
Looks like he just got out of bed.
But you know how like the way he stands, like his shirt was always sticking out in the back because he stood like hunchback. Like it's just, you know, those kids like in high school.
Josh Hartnett was such the it guy for a while, probably late 90s.
Now he's on that, what, Penny Dreadful or something?
Yeah, I think he's doing TV.
Yeah.
I don't know, but he was like so cool for a while in movies.
What was like the big one? Like, what do I know him from? Some.
He was in that 40 Days and 40 Nights.
Yeah, but I was too young to watch that, so it would have been something that came out before that.
Oh, he's in Pearl Harbor.
Oh yeah. Oh, Black Hawk Down.
Black Hawk Down. 30 Days of Night. I think that's a vampire movie.
Yeah.
He's in Sin City.
That might be where I recognize him from.
I mean, I wonder if it's just, well, Pearl Harbor came out after this.
It must have been Pearl Harbor that I recognize him from, because
'Cause he's one of the main people.
2001, I was 11.
He's a good actor.
Yeah, I agree.
There's all good. I mean, everybody in this is good. The guy who plays the jock, I feel like he's definitely of that time too.
Yeah, he's the only one that I don't really recognize. Well, I recognize him, but I don't know what he's in.
Yeah, I don't think he's like doing anything. Well, I shouldn't say that.
Probably TV. I mean, I feel like these days, if you had any amount of cred in the movies, you can be on a TV show.
Yeah. Oh, he was an Alpha Dog.
Oh, that's a good movie. He seems like the kind of kid. He seems like he would be in like the Dead Poet Society, like one of the kids.
Yeah.
He seems like a one of the kids type actor.
Oh yeah,
Like
totally.
October Sky or one of those Cider House Rules. Aren't those about like young boys or something?
Yes. Yeah. Faculty is just a great movie.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe if you watch it now and you'd never seen it before, you'd be like, "Oh, this is kind of stupid." But like, I don't know. It's
fun.
good.
It's a fun movie.
Yeah.
Like it's fun above anything else, you know?
Yeah, and it's and it is. There are some like stylized, like stylistic things about it.
And like, dude, I love that line. Like I used in the beginning. I love when because you know how they're all like trying to decide who could be the alien.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, you know, you showed up from wherever, and then they turn to him and be like, well, all of a sudden the jock decides to quit football. And he's like, I'm not an alien. I'm discontent.
Yeah.
It's just like, that's
Well,
so
that
good.
yeah, and I mean that scene is kind of cool because they can say to each of them like, well, you changed recently and you changed recently. Oh, and then remember Elijah Wood, his parents like freak out. They so overreact when he's like, when he says that they saw the teachers attacking the other teacher. And then they go back to their house and they're like, we're taking away everything. And they're like, we're taking away your computer. We're taking away your like
Phone.
internet.
Yeah.
And then the mom's like, his porno.
Yeah. And I love how she knows and the dad doesn't. He like lifts on the mattress. He's like, oh. It's just like, dude.
It's just
Poor Elijah Wood.
they like freak out about
I
it.
know.
And his dad is Shooter McGavin. It's just
Well, dude, that
like,
part is
so
actually
funny.
kind of cool. Remember when the principal's like, I need to see the cop?
Oh,
It's like,
I
dude,
know.
the cops are your only like potential way to fight this. And then it's like, oh, well, no, not anymore.
Yeah, well, and then it's funny because like she brings the cop into the office and there's like a little bit of like things like banging around.
Yeah.
And when they come out, it kind of looks like they were maybe like getting it on.
Well,
But
that's-
like Elijah Wood's like, oh my God.
Yeah, right.
And then when she tries to take the mom and Elijah Wood's like, no. Because he like
Oh,
doesn't
yeah.
want his mom to get,
dude, I love
taken over.
Dude, that actress, BB Newirth. Is that how you
yeah,
say it?
she's
I fucking
awesome.
love her, dude.
Yeah.
She's always like I remember like she's so good in like Jumanji.
Yeah, she's good.
Remember like her and the cop,
I
and
don't
when
really
like
remember Jumanji.
because she's like their aunt,
Okay.
and she's driving. Like, remember when the cop car gets taken by the vine?
I mean, I guess I don't really remember that movie.
I don't know. There's just like she's just
Been a long time.
I like that actress a lot, and like I don't know, like she's never like the star, you know?
Right.
But she's
She
always
to me
good.
seems very like dramatic. I don't know if she was in like Broadway or something, but
yeah,
she
probably.
and everybody has bangs in this movie, like you noticed.
Yeah, I did notice that. Especially Famkas were weird. Was that a style?
Yeah, I think
Was
that
it?
still is a little bit of a style.
Just looked weird. Whereas like
She just looked weird anyway because
Yeah.
she's like, it's like in so many movies when they take like an attractive person and they try to make them look nerdy, and they do it
Yeah.
like the same way. They do it with glasses and they just
the
like
body language.
the body language, like, and just the fact that she was like so timid. And then like I love her when she's
Alien.
yeah,
She's wearing like
that whole scene.
fire engine red with her
Right.
hair down.
Right.
It's just totally putting him in his place.
Yeah, and it's just like it's just kind of awesome. I mean, I didn't realize that that scene was stolen from The Thing, but I do love it that she that her head comes off and like her body's all like, "Oh, where's my head?"
Yeah, yeah.
And like her head is just like walking around. Oh, and remember the part when they cut off Jon Stewart's fingers and they just like crawl across
yeah.
the floor?
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like it's just a good fun movie. Definitely watch it. Like
100%.
it's
I agree.
awesome. I do feel like a lot of people have seen this movie. When I brought it up
Oh,
at
yeah.
work, everybody was like, "Oh yeah."
Well, yeah, because I've like this is my first time watching it all the way through. When
Yeah.
when I was a kid watching TV before streaming existed, this movie was on TV all the time,
Yeah.
like all the time. I never watched it in order, but I've pretty much seen every scene in that movie,
Right.
just at various times when I was younger on like TNT or whatever.
Yeah.
But anyway, highly recommend The Faculty.
Yep.
Medium recommendation for Operation Avalanche. Like
Maybe
it's
just know what you're
yeah.
just know more what to expect than
It's
we
definitely
did.
like, you know, it's quirky, it's weird, it's cool, it's different. So it's worth the fact that it's different and pretty original means worth checking out.
Yeah.
And then A Fall of Moondust, of course, not one of my favorite Clarke novels, but certainly a great novel.
Yeah, and like we said, it's very accessible. I think if you've never read any Clarke, like this is not a bad place to start. It's pretty straightforward, so you're not like I'm not saying this is a bad thing, but you're not like struggling to understand things. Like I think that that's a good thing, but this
Yeah.
novel is just easier to read. It's not like a total page turner, but you still like want to know what's going to happen. Even though I didn't think anyone was going to die, I still was like, oh, what are they going to do? How are they going
Right.
to get out of this?
And I guess what's kind of cool too is that because he was wrong about the dust, it's still very much science fiction because what he's describing is something that doesn't exist,
Right.
but could maybe exist on some other planet. So it's still
Yes.
fantastical very much.
Yeah.
So that could be cool. And so let's wrap it up. Next week, Heather just agreed we're going to do a bonus episode, maybe a little shorter, about the BBC radio adaptation of A Fall of Moondust, and we will be discussing also a film, which we haven't decided which one yet, but that'll be a interesting episode. And the following episode will be the second to last collection of short stories. This one is titled Tales from 10 Worlds. Tales from 10 Worlds. I'm going to check that.
We should let someone pick. We should let people pick the movie that we watch.
Tales of 10 Worlds. I don't know if I have a big enough audience for that.
I know.
That's the problem.
That's what I was thinking.
Nobody cares. But maybe someday.
Yeah, maybe someday someone can do that for us.
Yeah.
Because it's hard to decide what to watch.
Yeah. I mean, well, you know,
We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Oh, what?
Well, I have an idea. I had suggested it to Amy, but then I suggested something else to Amy, so maybe we could do it, and I think you'd be down, but we could talk about it after. So,
That's behind the scenes stuff.
yeah, that's behind the scenes. So that's it. Please tune in next time for the BBC radio adaptation. I didn't know it existed until yesterday, so maybe it's awesome. Maybe it sucks. Who knows? But hopefully we'll see you next time. Check me out on Instagram at the Space Streamers. What else?
Go rate this.
Yeah. Rate this on iTunes and on Spotify. Thank you so much for listening. We are recording this on Mother's Day, so happy late Mother's Day to anyone who's listening to this who is a mother. Mothers exist in space and on the moon and on Mars in the worlds of Clarke. So
Yep. Happy Mother's Day.
yes. And yeah, that's it.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
Jack you up. Hello, beautiful space streamers. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. I cannot express my gratitude to you, whoever you are that's listening. Thank you. I love you, and I hope that you love Arthur C. Clarke as much as I do, because he's the man. I've been watching a lot of internet videos with him, like interviews with him lately, just being a normal guy, and it's amazing. Like, it almost kind of ruins the illusion, but nah, he's the man. I love him to death. But anyway, obviously, why would I say that? Obviously, I love him. Now, I gotta thank some people, as I do at the end of the episodes, because this is not a solo effort. First of all, I need to thank my gracious co-host, Heather, for listening to my mad ravings about jacking you up. Finally, Heather read an Arthur C. Clarke novel, so this is pretty exciting. And I think that she liked it. Pretty soon, I'm hoping that we can get Heather to read another ACC novel that you may have heard of, though I'm not sure if you have, because it's kind of obscure. It's called 2001: A Space Odyssey. But anyway, that's for later. Also, I need to thank Kevin Lesage for making all the music that you hear in this podcast. It's probably the best part of this podcast. When you get sick of hearing me, just listen to the music. It's better. What else? Who else? I have to give a huge shout out to, actually this time I got to give a shout out to my sister Amy for doing the ads, because for the first time I couldn't have Heather do the ads because she was the guest. So Amy filled in and she did a good job. So thank you, Amy, for doing the ads. Who else? I give a big shout out to Quinlan Akins for doing the voiceovers. He's got that buttery smooth voice. It's so good. I love it. Mixed with Kevin's music. Ooh, I love it. Anyway, please leave a 5-star review. I have a few 5-star reviews, but not that many. Certainly not as many as I have downloads per episode. Speaking of downloads per episode, I've been doing this podcast now since February. So February, March, April, May, June. We're looking at almost 4 months of doing this podcast. So what I want to say is, I've mentioned before that I'm on Instagram. So go to Instagram and look up The Space Streamers, THESPACEDREAMERS. And basically, the point I'm trying to get to here is, I look at the downloads, and although this show is certainly not immensely popular at the moment, I have more downloads per episode than people that I know personally who listen to the show. So what I'm asking you to do is, if you listen to this show and you don't know me, and you didn't find this show because of like who's involved, if you found it because you like sci-fi or you like books or you like Arthur C. Clarke, if you found this podcast somehow, please just like DM me on Instagram or just do like, I'm curious. I just want to know. I just want to know who listens. And I will also say thank you. But the point is, I'm just curious. I want to get some numbers. So anyway, thank you so much for listening. As I've said, please stay tuned for next episode. This is ACC 08, 8th novel by Clarke, A Fall of Moondust, 1961. The next novel we're covering should be next week. It's called Dolphin Island. It's certainly an interesting one. If you're familiar with Clarke's bibliography, you will certainly agree that it's a weird one. But I got my mother, who I refer to as the mother of all sci-fi lovers, to be the guest. God love her for reading that book. Good Lord. It's rough. It's tough to get through. It's a good thing it's only 140 pages. So tune into that one. That'll be interesting because you'll hear, like, I don't know, the person who raised all the hosts of this podcast. It's kind of cool. But that's pretty much it. Once again, thank you. Immense thanks go to you. Well, actually, I'll say mil gracias, because in Spanish, mil gracias means 1,000 thanks. In English, it might be weird if you were like, 1,000 thanks, man. But in Spanish, you mil gracias. So mil gracias to everyone listening. Thank you so much. Please join me next time talking about Dolphin Island. And then ACC 10. Whoo! No, that's Glide Path. Wait a minute. What a fool. Okay, so you got to hit Dolphin Islands next week. Following week's going to be Glide Path, which is also a very interesting book with some very interesting moments. And then 2001. So please, please, please stick around. 2 weeks, we're doing 2001. Because I know that at the bottom of your heart, you really want to hear 2 more people talk about how amazing that book and that movie are. So please join us. Thank you, and I love you. Bye-bye.
This has been a Sue Madre production. See you next time.